right, all set.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Fran Backstrand, and this is the November 24th, 2020 Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Before we open this open meeting of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Zoning Board of Appeal are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Zoning Board of Appeals to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. So thank you, everyone. I wonder if I could ever memorize that or whether we'll be out of quarantine before I have that opportunity. So it is beyond the hour of 6 o'clock. So we're going to jump right in with the continuation of the consideration of the petition of 8688 Main Street LLC for a variance special permit with site plan approvals to construct buildings for 2 contractors' yards at 50 Southwest Cutoff, map 82, parcel 1, and map 95, parcels 11 and 12, located in the Business West and Residential C zoning districts. And I am going to look into our participants and see if the people who are representing the applicant are here. I'm going to start with, let's see, I have Tim Shea. I'm moving you in. Just give me 1 second, Tim. Let's see who else do we see. Oh, there's 99. All right, so James Tetrault is on. And Nick, okay. So I believe I have, Mr. Shea, is this your representatives? It's yourself, Mr. Pisani, and Mr. I want to say Nick. Is that right? Sorry.
Tatro and Nick Muscoff.
Muscott. Thank you.
And my attorney, Bob Jackowitz, might be trying to.
Okay. Would he be coming in on a phone number or by, do you know what the last digits of his phone number are?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay.
Hey, Fran,
Yes.
Matt Pisani is with the next hearing?
Correct.
Oh, my bad. Okay, so I am going to disable his talking. And so I have James is on 099. There's also a James by first name on the computer. Is that you as well?
Yeah, I think that is me as well. I
Okay.
apologize. I should have put my whole name in there.
No, that's fine. And there's Nick. Okay, so now I'm all set. And I'm sorry, Mr. Shea, you said your attorney is?
I think he's just going to listen in.
Okay, all right, that's fine. If he can hear, that's great. Okay, so this is a continuation from our last meeting, and I do know that we have some additional information from the design review, but why don't we start with you bringing us up to speed as to where your application is?
Sure. To the chair, this is James Tatro from Thompson Liston Associates, representing 86 to 88 Main LLC. And since we were last in front of you, we had a few meetings with the design review committee, and we presented to them a couple different revised versions pursuant to their comments of both the landscaping and the buildings themselves. We eventually, at the DRC's meeting on the 19th, were given approval by a 4-to-1 vote, and the DRC Design Review Committee expressed a preference for the layout that we are showing with two separate buildings rather than a single, much larger, more conspicuous building, and that is was the initial focus for our being in front of this board, was that we were asking to be allowed to construct two separate buildings. We were at the planning board previously. There was a letter from them. We have a letter now of review from the town engineer in regard to this project. I think I can say it's a pretty clean letter, and we had much additional comment from different abutters actually I say abutters, but I should say residents, because actually we have no comments from actual abutters. There are a couple of folks from Buck Hill Drive, which is about 500 feet to the west, sent comment letters, and there was also a comment letter from one of the design review committee members. But just to go over just some of the basics, I don't know how much you want you want me to talk in that regard.
Well, I mean, why don't we just to recap, just so that we know that the application that we have in front of us is a special permit to allow the construction of the two new buildings that you had just said. And that is because in our Business West District, you have to have a special permit if you want more than one building on a lot. There's also the site plan approval that is required because in all of our business and industrial zones, we require a site plan approval for any new construction. So if you want to just give us just briefly, I guess I have my first question is the two buildings that you're proposing, while they are large in their own right, how do they compare to the buildings to the facing the property to the right in size?
I guess I would ask either Nick Muskoff or Tim Shea, what is the size of that building?
10,000 square feet.
Okay, so that's actually slightly larger to the chair than either of these buildings.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just note that we're, despite I think a comment in one letter sent to the board by someone, we're easily meeting the open space requirement on this property. And as far as impervious cover, yes, we are somewhat increasing the impervious cover, but as I say, we're easily meeting the open space requirement. And where the existing site has no drainage system and no infiltration of runoff, we would have a state-of-the-art drainage system, and everything would be run through a stormwater filtration unit, and we would have infiltration such that despite our adding impervious cover, we would have a net decrease in both in volume to any abutting property, including Route 20, and in addition to having a decrease in the peak rate of flow to any abutting property and Route 20.
And can you also address the curb cuts and where they're being proposed located compared to where they are currently?
Sure. Where they are now is there are two curb cuts, one at the north end of the property, which was primarily used as the entrance, and another one essentially in the middle of the property next to the existing small building, which was primarily the exit. And we are going to use a single access point at the south end of the frontage because that is the best point for sight distance. And I would just note that one of the points of discussion with the design review committee was that committee, and perhaps you folks in the earlier meeting, I don't remember everyone's comments, saying, well, you're typically supposed to leave a buffer of 50 feet if you're an industrial use bordering a residential use. And as we say, the reason we're not giving that buffer in distance is that we're using the best point for sight distance at the south end of our frontage. I would note that one of the primary topics of discussion with the design review committee was our providing a 6-foot stockade fence and extra landscaping along the south boundary of the property to help shield that abutter, which is the Del Greco family who sold the rest of this property, to help shield the Del Grecos from this business/industrial use.
And I do believe they did comment in the positive to that at our last meeting. Do we actually have, Kathy, any pictures or designs from the design review? I know we have a letter saying that they've come to an agreement of how it would appear, but just, for us to know what they were thinking, is that something that we have?
The applicant should certainly have that. I don't have it loaded.
Okay.
Kathy, if I could share my screen, I can show all those stuff.
Yeah.
I've got it all queued up and ready to go.
Okay. So let's do that. So Fran, he needs to,
All right, I think, is that something David does or
Fran, you'll need to bring
James?
James in as a panelist in order for him to be able to do that. So if you right click on him, there'll be an option to promote to panelist.
No, it's my.
Or it might be under the more button for him. Or I can certainly do it.
No, I have mute, disable, talking, remove, or hide.
All right, so I'll promote him to a panelist.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so share screen. And unmute your speaker will increase volume here. Let me get that. Can you see the rendering, the nice coloring?
Yes.
Okay. That was provided by the landscape architect who does a infinitely better job of these things than I do. And this is showing you the more southerly that I'm circling the crosshairs on. This is the 9,600 square foot building, and the more northerly 7,000 square foot building. And the two access points before were in roughly this area where the existing building was. That was intended primarily as an exit, I guess it was the way it was used. And over here was the other access. Now, because of a high point of Southwest Cutoff just about at the bottom of the sheet or just off of it, access points over here and here have trouble with sight distance because folks coming northward with a head of steam on a 50-mile-an-hour road, they don't have great sight distance for them. So our access is proposed here by the north end of the frontage. And this was, I can say, essentially blessed by Mass DOT, whose only comment was that I think the very tail of this curb rounding, they said, well, you go about a foot in front of the other property, you have to cut that back. So, but it was reviewed by Mass DOT initially. And here at the south boundary of the property where I'm running the cursor back and forth, you see this is the fence symbol, square, line, square, line. That's a proposed 6-foot-high stockade fence, and we propose landscaping on both sides of that on the south side of it to basically give a nicer look for the Del Grecos when they're looking in that direction, and some additional landscaping on the north side just to keep up the appearance of this site.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the board members have, while this is up, does anyone have any questions or comments for the applicant related to the Design Review Committee's recommendations? Okay, and keeping in mind, this is just their recommendation on how it would look should it be approved. They don't recommend approval, they just recommend looking like this. Okay.
And to the chair, would you like to see the buildings, which were the final product of review from the design review?
Yes, please.
Okay. Here is elevation views of the larger building, and where I'm running the cursor in a circle here, this is the front elevation view. And because this building is, excuse me, is set above the road, you slope up from the road to the to the parking area, and this is set back a little ways. A driver in Route 20 may have trouble seeing the bottom couple feet of this building. But this is, if you're standing in the parking area, this is what you would see. And you've got the side views, and over here, you've got the rear view overhead doors possible for each of the 4 potential tenants. And the other building is a similar appearance, similar style. The other building, the 7,000 square foot building, would have this face right here where I'm circling the cursor. This would be the face, this short side here, that would be facing toward Route 20. Again, as you can see, the color scheme and the general layout is the same between the 2 buildings. And this was, again, worked out after multiple sessions with the design review committee folks.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question, Madam Chair. So the image that we're looking at where the applicant's cursor is now, that will be facing Route 20? Is that
Yes,
correct?
correct. I'll just quickly go back to the other building, the other drawing, excuse me. That is where I'm circling the cursor now. That's this short side of the 7,000 square foot building. That is this here.
And how much of that will be visible based on the buffer and the landscaping? How much of that building will be visible on Route 20?
I'd say again that that a driver on Route 20, because they're set 3 to 4 feet lower than the edge of the parking, and because I'm going to just jump back to this, because there's this landscaping, both low and some higher here, that it would probably, especially once everything is mature, it would probably be pretty difficult for a driver to see the bottom 3 feet or say of this building. Because that landscaping, to jump back one more time, sorry.
Yep, no problem.
This landscaping is about 3 or 4 feet higher right here than the driver is here. So the driver's eye, even though the driver's eye is typically set to be about 3.5 feet up, the driver's eye is looking at ground level here. So even these low plants here, even though they're not very high, the lower shrubs, just by being a couple feet high and some 25 feet away, let's say, they're actually pretty well obscuring the driver's view of the bottom of this building. So I would guess that the driver is going to see the top 3/4 of this building, but he's not going to see the bottom part.
Okay, thank you.
Is that
Madam Chair?
aluminum siding?
I would have to defer to Tim Muskoff, Nick Muskoff.
Okay,
It's not aluminum, it's steel.
okay, thank you. I'm sorry,
Oh.
Mark, go ahead.
What's the peak height of the building?
20 feet.
Okay. And is there any signage going back to the layout plan? Is there any signage?
Actually, I'm going to jump to the last landscaping plan.
Okay.
We're going to have a sign in the Business West zone right in this location. You can see it's not quite dead centered in front of the larger building. And as a sample of the style and height of sign, this is the 130 Main Street sign, and 86, 88 Main LLC intends to put a similar sign in this location. They would
Anything
have to
on? Excuse me. Anything on the building itself?
Tim or Nick, I don't think there's any intention, but you want to jump in on that?
At this time, we don't know who our tenants are going to be and what their sign needs might be.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions from board members while we have this up? Okay, all right.
Yeah, sorry, Madam
All
Chair, I
right,
was on
sure,
mute.
sure.
A little more, if you don't mind, I'd like a little more detail about the buffer between this property and residential. I know
Sure.
we've gone back and forth with a lot of other applicants about
Yep.
how it abuts residential, and that's been a major concern. So I just want to hear how you guys plan to remedy that.
Fair enough. And as I say, it was a significant topic of discussion with design review. And what we are committed to do here is, on this plan, you see where I'm running the cursor. This is a proposed 6-foot-high stockade fence, a solid fence, running along the south boundary of the property. In addition to that, we're proposing some tree and larger shrub plantings on our side for appearance, and also some shrub plantings on the residential lots side of this fence for the aesthetics and approval of the owner there, the Del Grecos.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I just want to, one more quick item I want to point out. I think at least someone's letter, there was a comment in regard to lights. And the site plan does include a lighting plan. I'm sorry, it's a bit hard to look at, but I'll show you again the proposed 4 locations for pole lights. One is here at the entrance to light the entranceway, where I'm circling the cursor. Another is at the back of the paved area here. A third is at this peninsula of landscaping here to sort of light the area between the 2 buildings a bit. And a fourth is back here. Those are the 4 proposed pole lights, or there would be wall pack lights in front and behind each unit, basically at each door. So where you have a walk-in door here, there would be a light. Where you've got, I believe, a walk-in door and a overhead door, you'd have a light back here. And just quickly, the pole light style, it's a 20-foot-high pole with a vertical down-facing light. This is what was modeled in the photometric plan, showing that we wouldn't have any significant light coming off the property. And I would just note, quickly, I'm going to jump back to another plan. Sorry to keep jumping around. That the nearest residences, besides this home here, the nearest residences are about 500 feet away to the west through an intervening property owned by a third party that's wooded. So there's the only residents in the area, the only party to whom you would immediately have a significant worry about lighting is this lot to the south. And we show that we're not having light spill onto them.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
Madam
Chair.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. Mark, you can
Okay. Just real quick, are the wall packs controlled by the individual units, or are they just on a timer for the whole property?
They'll be on a timer all together.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Are you conferring with someone? Or I'm not sure, did
I
we
think
lose
Tim
you?
is.
Okay, okay.
And just one other thing I wanted actually to jump in on this first. This is the existing site. This is the Google Street View. And it's actually, there's less of the material there now. It's mostly been sold. But this is what the previous use of the site was. Collection of mulch and materials, pallets of different stones all over the site, and that which continues further to the south end of the property. And this is actually, if you remember, if you've ever seen those Google vehicles, the camera is on top of a car. It's not at a driver's side. This is a couple feet higher than actually the eye of a typical driver. So if you think of, as I was talking about what the driver would see, think of this driver's eye being a couple feet lower. So instead of his eye being sort of around here, his eye is, you know, around this height, say, you know, a couple feet lower in perspective than this. But I just wanted to, I had intended to show that at the start, but while I've got it all queued up, I can't resist jumping to it. But this is the site pre-development, if you will.
Thank you.
And what 8680 Main LLC, which is mostly composed of the same folks in Stone Ridge Development, who've developed multiple sites in Northborough and really done a nice job. And I think have earned themselves an excellent reputation for doing what they're supposed to in the development and doing the landscaping and everything per their permits. This is what they're starting with, and this is what they're going to construct. And I think it'd be a heck of an improvement.
All right, well, thank you. Did Mr. Shea find out whether it's in unison, the timers, or by the individual occupants?
Oh, I
It'll
think,
be in unison.
Oh, okay. So regardless of the need of the individual tenants, the lighting is going to be controlled by the building.
The wall pack lighting, yes.
Okay. Mark, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Paul, did you have a question?
Yeah, just, hello?
Yep.
Yep. So on the original plans, I guess it's the southernmost building that is both in Business West and Residential C zoning. Is that still the case?
That is correct. Our understanding from the building inspector is that a building in both districts can keep its status in the Business West district as long as it does not intrude more than 50 feet, I believe, into the residential district, and this building would extend 49 feet into that district.
Okay.
So the driveway and the pole lighting, that is the entrance and exit, which is then most definitely in the residential, is not a factor? Because it's not a building?
Not a factor in what way?
When you just said that as long as it doesn't encroach more than 50 feet into the residential, it keeps its status.
Yes, just as in regard to an actual building, that
Okay.
a structure has to be, if a structure is going to retain its applicability under a business zone, it cannot intrude or extend more than 50 feet into the residential zone.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I'm just going to jump to Bob and just make sure that we're not putting words in your mouth, but that sounds right to you, Bob?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. All right. So,
I have a question.
sure, Dick.
The land behind it, it's vacant land now, but were it to be developed, is there any kind of buffer that you're putting in between it and this lot?
Well, as you see on this plan here, what this coloring shows, there would actually be a septic system in this location, and this coloring is expected to be just grass cover. And what is this dark green here is woods, this sort of scalloped edge, to remain in place. So we'd have a little bit of woods remaining in place here. If I think this is JSB Times Square LLC, if they were to develop that property, I don't know exactly what they might do there, but this would be something, they would know that this was a beginning condition before they proposed any development of that land.
Is that zone residential?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Sure,
if I
Bill.
may.
Yeah.
Yes, so you were showing us the image from Southwest Cutoff from a Google car with a camera on the top. And you were saying that that's a little bit higher than the typical car or truck that would go into this property. Are you saying that there will be no 18-wheelers that would go into this property? Because 18-wheeler would be substantially higher than that image.
Maybe I didn't make myself understood. What I was getting at is that the perspective of this picture
Yes,
is from a camera that's higher than the driver's eye. I just wanted, obviously, some trucks I'm sure will come in and out of here, but just to make the point, I'm going to jump to the site plan, to the grading plan in it, because I want to show you just the actual elevation difference, and I'm going to zoom in. So I apologize for the jumping around, but bear
no
with
worries.
me.
This is
So the grade over here, from roughly where that picture was taken, is elevation 360.
Yep.
And the grade at the edge of the curb here is actually 366. That's actually 6 feet higher. So the driver's eye is about 3.5 feet high. So he's actually looking up just to see the dirt at the edge of the curb here. This actually even more makes the case of, I think, of what I was suggesting, that from that particular point. It's not quite as much of a difference, for instance, at other spots. Right here, a driver would be around 362, and again, around 366 surface, so that's about 4 feet difference. Over here, the driver's eyes are around 359 versus 360, that's 5 feet. So it's 5, 6, 4. So it bounces around, but at any rate, the driver of a car coming by is going to be looking up at, the landscaping along the edge here, and it's going to provide a pretty good visual block for the bottom few feet of this building and of the one that's facing Route 20 also.
Okay. Thank you. And then my second question, Madam Chair, is as far as the hours of the site. I know we discussed this at the initial, the first part of the applicant's hearing a couple of months ago. What were the current hours of the site, and when Del Greco was running this, and then what are they looking for now as far as lighting? I'm just thinking about the hours of operation for the lighting, even on the building or not.
Madam Chair, I think I can take a stab at this. Tim Shea.
Yep, sure. Go ahead, Mr. Shea.
So I believe they opened at 7 in the morning. And I think they were open 6 days a week. In addition, they often ran plow trucks and sand trucks for the state and for the town. So at different times, they would operate whenever they were called. And during our first meeting, I threw out some examples of different businesses that could perhaps be tenants, and how it would be difficult to limit their hours of operation in the event that some of them were doing work that might have an emergency that they had to tend to, or a weather condition that had to be dealt with. So I was reluctant to put hours on the site, and I still am.
Okay, so then to follow up, I mean, if, as an example, if there was a snowplow business who utilized this property, they wouldn't be snow plowing. They would be going to get their vehicles at any odd hour of the evening, depending on what shift they're in. But the work itself on the site is just coming and going of the tenants?
I think most of the tenants would be service people of some kind, whether it's a plumber, an electrician, some kind of trade. That's who we think we will be leasing to.
Okay. So they would be coming and going. They're not doing plumbing and electrical work there.
Right, they would be doing that service at a job elsewhere for the most part.
Okay, and Madam Chair, final question for me,
Mhm.
if it's okay.
For now.
So the proposed buildings I'm looking at are, we're looking at about 16,600 square feet, if that's correct.
Yes.
And what's the current square footage of the buildings on the property today? I saw the pictures, but I wasn't able to decipher what the square footage was.
I apologize, Madam Chair. I don't think I have the exact square footage of these two buildings. I think it's a total of around 2,500 square feet or 3,000 square feet, somewhere in that range. But I don't have the exact total. So
I couldn't
it
even
is
find it online.
much smaller. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay.
I was trying to look online too. I couldn't even
Right.
find it.
And that's for the 4 buildings, because I believe there's more than just 2.
Well, there's the main manufacturing building here.
Mhm.
There's a small office up front. There's another structure here.
Okay.
Not sure what a fourth one is, unless there's a little sort of a shed at the edge of the property here. But really, it's primarily the 2 main structures: the office up front and the block manufacturing building in the middle.
Okay. All right. So to follow up on square footage, and you may or may not have this information, compared to in Business West, where there are other single pieces of property that have more than 2 buildings, the one I think of most often would be, and I don't know, I think they call it, all right, so it's where the olive oil place is. There used to be a yogurt place and there are apartments. Those are 4 buildings on 1 lot.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what the square foot, I guess I should have looked that up, what the square footage of those 4 buildings, because that would be a comparison, right? If you're looking for a special permit to allow 2 new buildings on 1 lot, that is an example of 4 buildings or more, I guess.
And I don't know about that other site, but I can tell you that these 2 buildings together, the 16,600 square feet, make up 13.8% of the area of this lot.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps in a comparison, thinking of other lots. If you can, with multiple buildings, are there, essentially between a 1/7 and an 1/8 of the area of this lot would be covered by the 2 buildings, and how might that compare to other sites?
Okay. All right. So, I mean, well, Kathy, would I be, again, if I'm just looking at a special permit to allow construction of 2 new buildings on 1 lot, would, where Rocky's Ace Hardware, would that also count as Business West with more than 1 building on 1 lot?
Yes, that's been Business West, and there's at least 3 buildings. I don't know if there's anything behind the building where the oil company is, but there's 3 buildings plus the ATM machine.
Oh, right, right, okay. What about that Foxwood? I think it's called Foxwood, the blue, look like a lot of houses. That
Yeah,
is
I was just gonna
also-
say,
okay.
across the street where Pickle House is, there's 3 buildings on that property. What we all know as Foxwoods, there's at least 2 buildings there. The first and second story. And I'm trying to think if the bank is on the same property that's out front, or if the bank is on its own parcel. That I'm not sure, but I can look that up.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to see if I was comparing at least, similar fruit. Okay. All right. So do any of the board members have any questions or of the applicant in regards to the construction of 2 new buildings on one lot in Business West?
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Sure.
To Tim Shea, if you're going to rent to snow plowing contractors, are you going to allow salting and sanding operations and have salt and sand there and the loading of trucks?
I think with the state, they usually go to a state barn and pick up their product there. That's generally how people who plow for the state work. And I don't know how it works with the town, but we are not in a groundwater area. Isn't that correct, James?
That's correct. This is not in any of the groundwater protection overlay districts.
If he rented to a contractor who was doing private work, he would need his own salt and sand. And if he rented from you, would you allow him to have that pile of salt and sand there and the front end loaders loading trucks around the clock?
I don't see why I wouldn't.
Okay.
But it might be a reasonable restriction or condition not to.
Might be.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I
Yeah,
just have a question. So if, and this is to the applicant, if you don't know who will be using the property at this time, why do you need the use to be grandfathered? Because, I mean, you could, I guess, in theory, put up these buildings and try to use it for a retail store, a art studio, bread and breakfast, which are all allowable uses, right? Going through catering service, deli shops, right? Because Business West is a majority of the uses that we have in Business West are commercial uses. So
if I could jump in, I think the applicant has a fair idea of the general category of use here. For instance, in a similar contractor's yard use in another town, they have a plumber, they have an electrician, they have others such businesses, and he's expecting similar tenants to want to lease these spaces, but he doesn't know specifically that there's not going to be somebody who is on call to do something at an odd hour of the night or something, which is why I think is hesitant to say to be locked down in regard to the hours. But in regard to the contractor's yard use, these will absolutely be contractor's yard use type tenants. But he just can't. There are not already leases for a plumber, an electrician, etc. at this time. That is what he expects.
How many tenants? In the one building, it said 4 potential. Is it 4 also in the 7,000?
Correct. And Tim or Nick, I think maybe you want to jump in that, about the flexibility and perhaps leasing more space to a tenant.
So if somebody needed a whole building, we would just lease them the whole building. There's no magic. We're just trying to fill space. We have a number of other properties in town, and the only space we're having difficulty leasing is retail and office. So we thought this would be a better road to go down right now.
So the maximum would be 8 tenants, but it could be less.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. And one large one sounds concerning to me. Can you give me an example of what type of entity would potentially want to lease like the 7,000 square foot building? Just like throw something out there.
Maybe a sprinkler company, commercial sprinklers in commercial buildings.
Okay. Thank you. Brad?
Yeah, Madam Chair. So currently, I understand how the use is grandfathered. Today, sorry, is it Del Greco or Zecco? I screw this up all the time.
Del Greco.
Del Greco, thank you. So Del Greco really had one or two uses, and we're looking right now at about 8 different units. Who's to say half of these units can be grandfathered and the other half cannot be? I mean, Mr. Rand, Dick Rand, my colleague, had mentioned salt and sand on the property and things like that. Like, who's to say one of these uses wouldn't be considered grandfathered, but
Okay.
the other 7 are?
All right, because Brad, it isn't actually the individual, it's gonna be confusing. Well, first,
Yeah,
the use,
it is.
it's confusing, right? So my understanding is
Mhm.
that the grandfathering is of contractor's yard,
Mhm.
and our definition of contracted yard has multiple facets. So this is not a non-conforming use from one to another. It's the same non-conforming use, a
Mhm.
contractor's yard. And the specifics within that are not factored. And it's not, I mean, I guess it's not part, if we wanted to put any type of conditions on a special permit with site plan approval to limit uses, we could, but it's not, we're not reviewing the grandfathering of the contractor's yard
Right.
interpretation.
Yeah.
So we would have to have a special permit with reasonable conditions that did limit the uses if we thought that that was the appropriate path to take.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it.
Yeah.
But no, thank you,
Right.
Madam Chair.
I just go with like contractor's yard, uppercase definition. But I mean, that's where we are at the moment. I mean,
Yep.
for tonight,
Yep.
it's the 2 buildings on 1 lot and site plan approval.
Thank you.
Madam
And-
Chair?
Mark?
Yes. I wonder if you could ask the applicant, as far as outside storage of product, like Dick Rand was concerned about salt, if he would be content to limit that to something on the order of 3,000 or 4,000 square feet, so that we don't end up with piles of brush or piles of sand, or I just wondered how Mr. Shea feels about limiting the area for outside storage of product.
Would that be per tenant, or how would you?
Total.
Well,
I mean, throw out a number. Or do
I
you
mean,
feel-
no, but I mean, what if I have a landscaping, somebody who does plants, and then someone else who does hardscape? That, we're on 2.75 acres, and yet you only want us to allow storage of 2,000 square feet.
Give me a number.
It seems pretty tight. It just seems like a.
Well, I'm looking at 16,000 square feet of building. It seems that, you'd be really crowding to put another 4,000 square feet of outside storage on there. You'd start having fire access restrictions. You'd be cutting, and it'd be quite an inconvenience for other tenants. But I'll be quiet and listen to your reply.
I think outside storage is allowed in this use.
But I think the question was whether or not you saw it was there a reasonable amount that you would think would work for your prospective tenants?
I would say, Madam Chair, I would say that Mr. Rutan makes, and I hope I didn't butcher your name, I apologize. There is something to what he says that, and this was also raised by Tom Reardon at the Design Review Committee, which was in regard to outdoor storage, and the discussion was, well, you know, if you look at, for instance, where I'm running the cursor, if you look at getting, allowing users access to the back of these lots, you really only have so much that you can do in the back here. And again, you'd have some area here which wouldn't conflict, and you'd have a good sized area here that wouldn't conflict with any vehicle movements. You'd be guessing at what the total that would come to, maybe between, you know, on here and a bit here and a bit here. Maybe you've got 6,000 or 7,000 square feet, or something around that range. So I'd say if the suggestion is the maximum that can reasonably be covered or stored outside is something in that range. That's not crazy for the proportions and the vehicle movements here. I'd say, you know, 2 or 3 would have been, I think, maybe unnecessarily restrictive.
Yeah, I think we can live with that if that's fine.
Okay.
So a limit of, say, 8,000 would be reasonable, in your opinion, Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Kathy, Bob, Fred, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do not.
Go ahead, Bob.
I do not.
I don't have any questions, Fran, but I don't know if at this point, you want me just to point out letters and memos that have come in? Or do you want to just go to Fred and have him go over his review letter?
I did want to have Fred speak to his review letter to make sure they're all on the same page, and then you can reference the other letters after that,
Okay.
if you would, please. Thank you.
Good evening,
Fred.
Fran and board members.
Thanks.
I did prepare a review memo. I want to let you know that the drainage report was reviewed and is appropriate. And as James indicated, there is infiltration and much improved drainage system for the overall site. I did have a recommendation for a few conditions, a couple of permeability tests in the area of the infiltration system, an earthwork permit. I'd like to see copies of the Mass DOT curb cut access permits. I am in favor of closing 2 and opening 1 at the location that is proposed. It is an improvement in the site distance, and the location is the preferred location as far as I can tell, but I would like to see the actual permit and correspondence back from DOT. The applicant will be required to pay a water betterment for each building at the time a building permit's pulled. And the applicant should verify whether or not the Board of Health has already approved the septic system. I did have, I didn't see the stormwater operation and maintenance plan in the actual package that was submitted. I spoke to James about that, and he has since submitted an operation and maintenance plan, which I would have reviewed. It looks adequate, and I'd recommend that that be attached to any approval. And then there's the standard condition about everything that's on the site should be included in an as-built plan, along with any discrepancies from the approved plan, as well as a chance for the staff to review the final plan before they go to construction to make sure that any comments or conditions that are put in the approval and not shown on the plans at the time of the approval are incorporated into those plans. just so that we make sure that once they go to construction, they're actually building what's agreed upon and not just what's on the proposed plans.
Thank you. And Mr. Shea, do you have any, or your staff have any issues or concerns about that letter?
No, I don't think so.
No, Madam Chair, no, we don't. And I just wanted to touch upon one of the points Fred raised in regard to the septic system, which would be in this area here where I'm running the cursor. We did the official soil testing. We have not submitted a final septic system plan to the Board of Health for review. That's where it stands. But we did do the official soil testing, and we did do the rough design to confirm that we had sufficient available space in that area, and we do. But we have not submitted the final plan to the Board of Health.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Kathy, if you wanted to list the letters and comments that were submitted to the town.
Sure. As far as staff and board letters, you should have all received a letter that was dated October 18th. Oh, actually, I think I meant November.
Oh, the one from the planning board?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's, I just caught that now. But anyways, no, actually, no, I'm sorry, that is correct, October 18th. So a letter from the planning board, and then you have well, obviously Fred Litchfield's review letter, and then you have a memo from the design review committee.
Perfect, thank you.
That is dated today. So those are, as far as staff correspondence or comment letters. And then you also have from residents in the community at the October meeting, there's a letter that's dated October 20th from Joanne Kraus. That you had that letter for one of your last meetings. There's a letter from Joanne, another letter from Joanne Kraus that is dated November 20th. And again, all of these, you should have received all of these by email. We also have a letter, I believe all these letters went directly to you, and and then I resent them all to you. There's a letter dated November 21st from gentleman Craig Caldecott, who is at 23 Buck Hill Road. In response to Mr. Caldecott's letter, there is a response from Thompson Liston, from actually James Tatro. That's dated November 23rd. You also have an email from Lisa Maselli that is dated today. And I believe, I don't have I think it's still in the printer. There was also an email from Amy Paretsky that I believe came in yesterday, November 23rd. So those are the letters that we have in the file from residents of the town.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I'm trying to figure out. All right, so can I ask James to stop sharing his screen so that I can actually see everything on my screen, so I can try to,
Sure.
Thank you. Get that bigger. I don't want that. All right, well, thank you, Kathy. And I'm not sure, did anyone of the board members have any questions at this point before I try to figure out how to do this again? It's just, well, it's still sharing.
Just out of curiosity, nobody's seen Amy Paretsky's latest letter?
It was emailed.
I think Amy sent it all directly to you.
All right, so it's the same one. All right.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Unfortunately, some of these emails were sent directly to personal emails, not through the town. And for some people, they bounced back because of either work restrictions or emails that are no longer valid. So there was a delay or a lag in getting them out to everyone through the town email. So, okay, so before I open it up to the people in the audience who wish to speak, there's a little button for you to raise your hand. That'd be the easiest for me to add you to be able to speak. I'm going to ask everyone out of respect for timeliness that everyone is limited to a 3-minute timing. And I'm going to ask Paul if you can just keep an eye on the time with me so that I don't get lost in the moving back and forth. So at this point, it is a public hearing, so I'll open it up to anyone, and I'm going to start with resident Amy Paretsky.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the first, I'm going to try to go fast because it's 3 minutes, but where the parcel goes on to the Residence C, if you go into your book on 725-704-050, it says you're allowed to go 50 feet on either side of the district boundary, provided that the lot existed at the time of the district boundary was drawn. The district boundary between residential and business was drawn in 2009. The parcel, the lot was not made, those 3 parcels were not combined into one lot until 2019. So that parcel, you cannot go 50 feet into the residential zone because the parcel was made after the property line was drawn. So that might be something you'd want to ask town council, because they can't expand into it because the property line was drawn in 2009 and the parcels were not combined until last year.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask you to just hold off and we'll stop the clock, so don't worry.
Okay.
Because I want to keep things separate here. Okay, so that's an interesting point. I don't know whether the engineer from the applicant, our town zoning enforcement officer or engineer, town planner, have any insight to that. I understand what she's referring to is Business West only became Business West in 2009. But I don't know that the property line, what was it? There was still a property line, but it wasn't a zoning line, right?
If I may, Madam Chair.
Who is this?
There is a doctrine in surveying and land issues called merged title. The required frontage is not met by the individual lot that is to the south of the zoning district. Under established law, under merged title, that lot is not an individual lot anymore after, I believe it's a period of 2 years. So this was actually one lot legally.
How big were the property lines?
I'm sorry, Amy, I spoke over you. Can you repeat that?
Well, I think it's something you might want town council to look into, because we had council look at that. And they did some research on the background of that property, and that's what they found is what I just mentioned. So since I only have 3 minutes, I just want to put that out there.
Okay,
and another, some other information is with a grandfathered use, section 708-020, if we're saying that this is a grandfathered use, if you're expanding it, which would be going from the 3,000 square foot to the 16,600 square foot, you need a special permit per 708-020. So I think you need more than just a special permit for 2 buildings. You'd need a special permit to expand a non-conforming use. And also, if the buildings are torn down and reconstructed, that requires a variance. So I really think there are a couple other things you need to run by town council, all part of the non-conforming bylaws.
Okay, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop the clock again. I'm going to stop the clock again for you, Amy. I'm going to stop the clock again for you because I want to try to keep your thoughts separate. I mean, or your points separate. My understanding that the non-conforming use concern is not before the zoning board at this time. The only thing that's before us is a special permit to allow the construction of 2 new buildings. That there is no,
There's no expansion? I don't
it's
understand
not,
why.
it's not, we're not, the use of the property is not before us right now.
But the use of the property comes in front of zoning board. That's what, if you don't agree that this use is an allowed use, then you deny the special permit. We asked Dave Janeski that, and I have it in the minutes, that if this use isn't a permitted use, then the special permit should be denied. I mean, the site plan should be denied, because site plans are only for permitted uses.
Right.
But why wouldn't you have the non-conforming expansion special permit in front of you? When would you ever do it if you didn't do it now?
I guess I'm going to possibly have to defer to Kathy or Bob, but my understanding is that the zoning enforcement officer made the interpretation that this is the same use that was already there. There was no lapse in of activity. Therefore, it's not, I don't want to say it's not necessary, but it doesn't rise to the level of scrutiny. It's always been a contractor's yard. It remains a contractor's yard. So there is no avenue for that, but I could be wrong. So I'm going to just real quickly ask either Bob or Kathy to speak to it, but then and then we'll go back to your, whatever's left of your 3 minutes.
Can I just read the bylaw?
No, I don't think it's, not unless you want to spend your 3 minutes reading it.
Well, it just says that the zoning board of appeals can grant a special permit to reconstruct, extend, alter, or change a non-conforming use. And to me, it sounds like you're extending the use because it's expanding. It's growing in size.
Okay, all right, and I appreciate that. That's what you're reading, and that's how you're interpreting it. I'm asking for an alternative perspective. That's all.
Sure.
Okay.
Are we waiting for Bob?
I'm not. Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
waiting.
Right. I mean, I'm.
Oh, I thought we were waiting for Bob to talk.
I'm sorry, Amy. I thought we were waiting for one of the staff to address that, because my understanding, it's not before us tonight. And if they have no comment, I'm going to ask you to continue.
No, I just.
Oh,
Bob,
there you
do
go. Sorry, Kathy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Bob, do you want to comment on your zoning interpretation, or?
I would say if that's a question, send it to council.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, as far as what's before the board tonight is, again, the building inspector, the process that we follow, boards and staff, is the building inspector makes his determination, which guides the applicant as to what boards, what permits, what they need, what the process is. And in this particular case, the zoning interpretation form was that it was a contractor's yard, and it's still a contractor's yard. And so what's before you is that per your zoning bylaw, if you were to have, in order to have two buildings on a lot, it requires a special permit. So that's the application that's before you.
Okay, all right.
But respectfully, if it expands, it really needs a special permit, or else there's no point of having our non-conforming bylaws, because they'll never kick in. But I just have one more question,
Okay.
or actually a statement, that the driveway is over the 50 feet. So even if town council says that the 50 feet can go into residential, that driveway is over the 50 feet, and the driveway is considered part of the business use. So you're filling that whole residential lot with a business use. That driveway isn't just considered a residential driveway because there's no residential house there. That driveway is part of the business.
Okay, all right, thank you, Amy.
So, all right, thanks.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Caldecott, if you could state your address, I'm sorry, for the minutes, please.
Yes, Greg Caldecott, 23 Buck Hill Road in Northborough. I'm not going to take you through the letter I wrote because you all are able to read that yourselves. To me, this is really pretty simple for me. For 24 years, I've lived through the woods, behind Greco masonry, and I haven't been bothered by the noise that I've heard there. I think this significant expansion of operations that I believe could take place at this location, depending on who the tenants are, and the hours that could be kept, will be a complete disturbance to our neighborhood. As it is, we're being surrounded by industrial businesses in commercial zoned areas because of these grandfathering, and it has a significantly detrimental impact to our community life. I did say in the letter that my wife and I have been woken frequently lately between 3 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the morning by truck noise. It's noise that really bothers me the most. I don't know if it's coming from that location, but it sounds like it because it's behind my house and that's where I hear it. It could be coming from 329. It could be coming from somewhere else. But the problem with allowing these businesses in there when we don't really, if we can't control the hours of operation, it's going to really impact the neighborhood. And even if we put controls on the hours of operation, we need to be able to enforce them. And I feel like enforcement, I don't know that we have the resources in the town to enforce these, but you can't put residents in harm's way if you can't enforce the rules that the businesses are supposed to live by. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Ms. Kraus, if you can just state your address for the minutes, please. Did I bring you in? I'm sorry. Try again. There you are.
Okay, now you can hear me, right?
Yeah, sorry about that.
I also don't understand how we could be approving a site plan that is going to allow who knows what kind of business in there with no controls at all. I'm with Greg. My house has been shaking lately with brand new noises that were never here before. And it's been unbelievable what these new businesses have been putting, changing this neighborhood. And I thought when reading some of these bylaws that if businesses are going to be significantly worse than what's currently there, then it's against the law.
Okay.
These are significantly worse, way worse, like nothing we've had to deal with in 23 years.
Okay, so part of the process in front of us, which is the special permit with site plan approval, is to try to mitigate some of those concerns by putting conditions on the property so as not to have those things happen.
But
so
they
there's certainly,
have been
so that is
every
certainly
day.
something that we would include in a decision if it was to move forward, and that there is not a no holds bar on anything that can be put in there. We can actually put restrictions and conditions on it to limit the hours of operation, the size of the the size of the businesses or structures, where they can put their outside materials. We do have that is what the site plan approval and special permit process is. And this property has not developed yet, so the sound concerns that you're currently having are not relevant to this project.
Well, they're coming. Well, I thought Bob was supposed to be the zoning enforcement agent, and these trucks and the noises that are going on at 329 are outrageous.
But I'm sorry, Ms. Kraus, but we're not talking about 329 at this point.
Well,
so that's
well,
something
I'm
you
just
would have to
saying.
take up with him outside of this meeting.
But you're talking about another property that could be 24 hours a day with who knows what. And the aquifer flows from where that property is through my neighborhood, and that's the water that I drink. Doesn't the town even care? They keep suggesting these types of businesses for the properties here. Don't you even care about the people who live here?
I'm not sure who you're referring to, but I'm going
The
to ask
town
you to,
planner and the zoning enforcement agent.
and I just apologize, but I don't think that's an appropriate question
sorry.
relative to what's in front of us. If you have something specific.
Madam Chair,
relate-
I don't,
Yes,
Madam Chair, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's 3 minutes.
okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Ms. Kraus. Okay, so at the moment, I don't see other hands, but they may come up as we continue to discuss. On face value, I don't know. I know that, I don't know. I mean, I get, on one hand, I can argue either side about the grandfathering. I do believe that since that's not in front of us, that's not what we're supposed to be discussing. That being said, to Amy's point, if we did not agree with that interpretation, then we don't go forward with a special permit with site plan approval, because it is based on whether it's an allowed use, a special permitted use, or a variance, which all gets us to the same place. But I'll give the applicant an opportunity if he thinks that there is some persuasive argument, and then hear from town staff, and then see what the rest of you want to do. So James, Nick, and I apologize for using first names, but I don't have everybody's last name.
Sure. To the chair,
So this is James?
this is James, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
James Tatro from Thompson Liston. The category of contractor's yard in the Northborough zoning bylaw covers multiple kinds of uses. I know part of the issue here is that you look at the Del Greco masonry supply business and you say, well, that's a different thing than a proposed building, which may have a plumbing business and an electrician business, et cetera, in it. But they are both under the rubric of the Northborough zoning bylaw. They're both contractor's yard type uses. And that was the opinion of Mr. Federico, the building inspector, who is at least, unless someone wants to make a case legal, is the authority in such issues. I understand the concerns of folks in the area, even though they may be 500 feet away through woods, that they don't want a use which disrupts their home and their lifestyle. Of course, that's their sentiment. Why shouldn't it be? But these types of uses, as shown on Stone Ridge Developments, as other similar properties, aren't such things. They're typically, again, an electrician who keeps some gear in and has a company truck that's out back of a unit, has a small office in front, and it's essentially a relatively quiet, exceedingly benign sort of use. Some of the uses may have, again, a little bit of need for outdoor storage, but I think some of the reaction, if some of the folks writing letters saw the uses at one of Stone Ridge's facilities in Sterling, I think they would find it to be an utterly benign sort of use. And again, this is, though it's not the same thing as the Del Greco masonry supply, it is a contractor's yard use in the same way that is a contractor's yard use, because the category of contractor's yard covered multiple kinds of businesses. And this is one of them, and it would be a continuation in that regard of a contractor's yard use of the site.
Okay, thank you. And I think that was what Brad was asking earlier. And so Bob, I have a question, just so that I can try to make sense of this. In our zoning, under the definition for a retail store,
Mhm.
we have everything from a newsstand to a household appliance store to a florist to a drugstore, candy shop.
Mhm.
So if there was a candy shop in an area that is no longer allows retail, so it's now a non-conforming use, but that retail establishment decided to go from a candy shop to a gift shop, since they're both retail, would that be the same non-conforming use and therefore grandfathered?
If you're going retail to retail, yes.
Okay, so this
terms
is
of-
going contractor yard to contractor yard, so that's how you came to yes.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Madam Chair. Kevin,
Oh,
a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, sure, Jeff.
Could we ask the applicant, Mr. Tatro, to show us that street view of the Del Greco property?
If you can still
Sure,
share,
okay.
sure.
Is that possible to share?
Yep,
Mhm.
just a second, I'll see if we can get that.
It looked to me that the entire lot is showing storage of, raw materials in the back. So while the
That-
building is one building, this entire lot is, storage for the raw product.
And that is the case. Now, what you're looking at here is essentially the northern half to 2/3 of the site. I couldn't get a Google Street View that captured it all. I probably should have taken another picture. But off on the left side of this view, looking past the building up front, and then there's the building in back. You had the other bin, and you had storage, and you had multiple pallets all over that area. So it is a fair representation of the previous use to say that the pallets were all over the site.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jeff. That's a good point. The other thing that I would just say is if Paul referenced what is allowed uses in Business West, and some of those that are allowed are not much different than what we're looking at right now, from a commercial greenhouse to a wholesale trade to sale of grain, lumber, and construction materials. And those are allowed in Business West. So while this may be called a contractor's yard, actually, it is very similar. Again, it's, it's not the same apples to apples, but.
Madam Chair.
Paul.
Yeah, so I guess I just have a question, right? So historically, Del Greco's has been there for 85, 90 years, and they've been operating a contractor's yard with a small building and selling pavers in that contractor's yard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was 2009 is when I believe it was the planning board, and I wasn't around in Northborough, but 2009 is when the planning board took it upon themselves to redo some of the zoning laws, right, in town.
Actually, Paul, I'll just tell you, it was a comprehensive year-long process that included 15 members of the community, some of which were planning board members, but many others of us met 3 hours every Monday for 18 months to develop and create those new zoning bylaws. Just saying, in 2009.
Okay. Sorry.
Fran, were you there?
Sorry.
Yes, I
Sorry.
was. Every Monday for 3 hours.
I could, no.
So, sorry
Congrats.
for
No, that's
mischaracterizing, but
a lot of time.
so Del Greco's is operating a contractor's yard, and they've been operating there for 90 years. And in 2009, right, the town, and again, I'll preface this, I was not here in the time, but the town did a comprehensive 18-month-long look at the zoning in town and decided that industrial uses, right, and specifically contractors' yards, right, are no longer appropriate for this section of town due to whatever it is you guys, there's more residential now than there was before, or whatever the case is, right? And I guess if the grandfathering of the use was sort of a one-to-one type of thing where Del Greco's is no longer operating his business and someone wants to come in and open up Del Greco's, okay, or whatever, and they sell pavers and they operate essentially the same business, okay? In my judgment or my view, that would be considered a grandfathered use because there's essentially continuing on that use, right? But I guess if we look at section 7-08030, where it talks about grandfathering uses or non-conforming uses, which this is because of the change in the zoning amendments, right? I guess the question that I don't have the answer to is section 7-08-030 requires a variance for the reconstruction, extension, or structural change of a non-conforming structure in such a manner as to increase an existing non-conformity or create a new non-conformity shall require a variance.
If I may, Madam Chair, I think the distinction there with what Paul just read is that's a non-conforming structure. This is a non-conforming use. A non-conforming structure is an existing building that it was supposed to have a 50-foot setback and it has a 32-foot setback. And someone asking to make it a 30-foot setback, they would need a variance to do so. This is the non-conformance here was not a structure and either square footage or setback, but the nature of the use. I think that's the distinction.
But you so I guess the simple example is if I wanted to open up a contractor's yard in Business West today, I can't just do that. That's not allowed.
Correct.
So it's a non-conforming use, right?
But not a non-conforming structure, correct.
Fran, can I
Sure.
pop in here?
Yep.
Paul, what you're, and I'm not being sarcastic here, what you're trying to do is apply logic to Massachusetts general law, which allows grandfathering. And for the past 15 to 17 years, the Massachusetts Association of Planning Directors, which I'm a member, and also the Massachusetts chapter of the American Planning Association, have been presenting bills at the State House to one of the things to eliminate grandfathering. Another thing is to eliminate approval not required plans. Those two particular uses, there's many, but those two particular uses come up over and over again. And they're very unique to Massachusetts. It's not unique to Northborough. It's a Massachusetts issue. And the example that you used, of saying that if the previous use was they sold pavers and crushed rock, and the new use comes in and they want to sell pavers and crushed rock, that is apples to apples. But the issue with grandfathering is that it's under the categories in the zoning bylaw. And so what we have here is a definition for a contractor's yard, and Del Greco's fell under that definition as a contractor's yard, and this proposed use has been determined to fall under the definition of a contractor's yard. So that's what you're comparing, is contractor yard to contractor yard. You're not comparing, crushed stone and granite blocks for a new patio versus whatever these uses might be, whoever these tenants might be. It's the contractor to contractor. And again, it's an issue in Massachusetts. It's not unique to Northborough. And yes, zoning has been changed, and zoning is continuing. Your bylaw should be like continuing to evolve as the economy changes, as build out occurs in the community. But again, what you're looking at here is, even though the zoning changed in 2009 because of Massachusetts general law, that's why towns have to do grandfathering. It's not a choice that we're making. It's a state law that grandfathering is allowed in Massachusetts.
But what we do
Right,
have
I
at
guess-
our, oh, I'm sorry, Paul.
I guess going back though, if it was just I wanted to take over Del Greco's and call it Paul's and sell the same thing, I could do that. They wouldn't need to come in front of us.
Yeah. One tenant could move in, one tenant could move out.
Right.
Yeah.
Which in this case, they could also, if they didn't want the two buildings.
Then that's correct too. If the owner of this, the new owner of this property wanted to just operate with what is existing there and not increase, parking or, not tick off any of the thresholds for site plan, they would just be able to move in and it wouldn't go before any board. But because, what they want to do is put two buildings, on a piece of property, and then that therefore then kicks off, the whole site plan approval process. Any new construction kicks off the site plan approval process.
And the idea is to make it a better functioning piece of property, aesthetically and functioning, I guess, with the sewer treatment stuff. But we also, we can't do anything about grandfathering, but we can do site plan approval and special permit conditions that are reasonable, or I guess are defensible, that make this work. But
So then I guess to that point of back to section 7-08020, right? If the structure is non-conforming, but the use is, wouldn't we need a special permit for the non-conforming use?
What in that? Oh, sorry, if Fran or
Sure.
The section that you're referring to, if anyone has their zoning, it's on page 75. But that refers to the special permit required for A and B. One refers to a use, one refers to a structure, and that is if you're changing a non-conforming use to a different non-conforming use.
Right.
So that's where that particular section kicks in. If you're changing it from, and people have, attempted this, people have been successful in the past. I can't give you an example, but I know that it's come up, in the years I've been here, but where you have, for this particular section, where you have a pre-existing non-conforming use, that's how it's typically referred to as, or it's the same thing as grandfathered, but they want to do a different use. They want to do something else that is also considered non-conforming, but it's not the same use. So that's where this section kicks off. In this particular case, what's before you, again, the use is not technically before you, but it's going from the same use, a contractor's yard to a contractor's yard. So that's where 7-08020 does not kick in.
So if the contractor's yard wanted to go to a used car lot, that would be a different non-conforming use that would have to have.
Yeah. Yep, that's a great example, because used car lots, I wish I thought of that, because used car lots are no longer allowed in town.
Okay. All right.
So again, what you have is, that's a non-conforming use. So you still see used car lots in town.
Okay, so do any of the other board members have any additional questions that they feel they need answered by the applicant? Do town staff have any additional questions that they feel they need answered by the applicant? Okay. Does anyone want to entertain the idea of closing the hearing? Or?
I move that we close the hearing.
That was quick. Okay,
Second.
that was,
Second.
all right. Mark Rattan motion to close, Brad second. It'll be a roll call. Mark,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
and Fran, aye. Okay, so we're closing the hearing. And we'll come back to that later this evening. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, the next on our agenda is the continuation of the consideration of the petition of NB Real Estate LLC for a variance special permit with site plan approval special permit to allow partial demolition of an existing building and to replace it with a new building that will be approximately in the existing footprint on the property located at 56 Hudson Street, map 54, parcel 84 in downtown neighborhood district in groundwater protection overlay district area 3. Okay, so let me just move that.
So, Fran, the people for this,
Are Randy,
yes,
no, sorry, not
Waterman,
remove, sorry.
Matt Pisani, and Tom.
Okay, so wait, I'm losing people. Matt, Pisani, Tom Reardon, and Randy.
And
Oh,
I don't know who, is that a burrito? I don't know
don't
who that
know.
is.
I don't know, but they are not, I don't know. So, okay, well, I do have all three of you here, so thank you very much. Okay, so where we left it was that the board was not clear on what the actual layout of the front of the building would look because of the angle of the loading dock. And I understand there's been a change recommended, and we did get something emailed to us, though I have to say that it was so small on a regular printer, it's hard to know. But if someone from the applicant wants to just walk us through what the recommended changes were to the loading dock in the front of the building.
This is Tom Reardon. Can you hear me?
We can, Tom.
So after your meeting on site at 56 Hudson Street, Randy Waterman had his crew mark out one option that we had discussed on site, which is to make a smaller loading dock that was perpendicular to the proposed addition along Hudson Street. And that loading dock is on one of these drawings. It is 8 feet 6 wide by 12 feet long, and then we had a staircase coming off behind it. Now, we've also prepared another drawing because we weren't confident that this smaller loading dock where you have to back parallel to the building was feasible for us. So we took Fred's suggestion that there might be another angle we could try to configure the loading dock. So the initial proposal had the driveway about 20 degrees from the face of the proposed addition. The second version you have in front of you is 10 degrees. This allows us to back in without being parallel to the building, but also we could keep a 30 to 32 foot long panel truck off the sidewalk and not have to back in parallel to a building. So we did two sketches to illustrate two options for you to consider tonight.
Okay, so did everybody get the email with the two copies today? All right, so one of them says it's just there's an A1 and then there's an A1 that says number 2, like first floor plan dock option number 2. The other one just says first floor plan dock option. If I look at the one that just says first floor plan dock option, I don't see anything. I see a right angle, but no depiction of a truck. Is that the one that you're saying you really don't prefer?
Correct.
Okay, and when I walked it, which I did before the weekend, oh no, maybe I did it Monday night. There was just orange spray paint that just said dock, and it was like 8 feet from the existing window. Is that what this drawing is supposed to represent?
Correct.
Okay. And why is this no longer preferable?
Well, the proposed siding of the addition is insulated metal panels.
Okay.
And having, 600 to 700 deliveries a year, where you're backing parallel to a metal clad building is not ideal.
Okay. Okay.
That's why Fred's suggestion, is there another angle we could explore so we're not putting drivers in that situation?
Okay. All right. So then when we get to the one that says number 2, where now we see a picture of the truck and he's backing up to, like you said, that 10% angle. So he's off the sidewalk, he's out of the road. He still has to go up the street and then back into the property instead of driving onto the property and backing up on the property, right? He's still backing up in the street?
Well, yes, you'd have to stop and then drive back towards the loading dock. I mean, any loading dock you'd have to back into. We just thought this would be a safer mode of delivery.
All right. Questions or thoughts from board members?
I certainly appreciate the fact that it's a lot easier for them to park when they have an angle so that they're only going to hit the loading dock if they're a poor driver rather than take off the entire side of the building. In any case, there's going to be maneuvering of a truck here. It's just not a wonderful way to park in any case, but I think the 10 degree as opposed to the 20 degree gets the truck out of the way for most of the time, loading and unloading. There's no rush to get rid of the truck as there was with the 20 degree. So
yeah, this is Randy Waterman. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
We can.
Yep. I guess just to go back to the original plan submission, the current loading dock, which has been there for numerous years, is 90 degrees to the street.
Mhm.
And the loading dock door that we all saw out there is only about 15 feet off the edge of pavement. So when a truck is there, it's sticking out in the road now. And so the original idea with this submission was, let's turn it and try and make it better than it was. I don't think it's anything the town said you have to fix this. I think it was just in the process as everybody was looking at the site and Tom was looking at the building. The idea was, hey, if we're going to do this addition or change, let's make it better. So I think that was, still the attempt. And I think this is definitely a much better situation than has been there ever in the past. But you can imagine when you look at that view, if a truck pulls past the loading dock and tries to back into the site, he's basically, if he's trying to get parallel to the building, it's much more of a blind back. He's trying to get the back side of his truck that he can't see right next to the building to fit it in there. So this would make their life easier to get out of Hudson Street much quicker by being able to just go straight back and lock up with the dock.
Fran, I'm not, I always question whether I did this correctly or not.
No, we see it.
Okay.
This
So
is,
this is the option 2. Is that what you're referring to, Randy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
all right, thank you,
So
Kathy.
anyone, if you want the other option up.
And you anticipate approximately 600 deliveries a year? I mean, like one a day?
Well, I just said if they have 2 to 3 a day, you could get, 10 to 15 a week.
Really?
But they're not offloading pallets. These are just small packages, like a residential delivery from Amazon.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
if I may. So, I mean, it's still the same right now, and the engine or the head of the truck is on Hudson Street, right? I mean, so
No.
regardless, it's not, we're
No,
not changing the
No.
number of deliveries. It's
So true.
no, the truck is not on Hudson Street any longer in this view.
yeah.
He's not even on the sidewalk.
He's
Clear of the sidewalk.
Okay. I mean, and honestly, like my personal story, if you go down through Southborough, what is it? Cedar Hill and Cimarano, there's a truck that will literally do the perpendicular parking, and they'll just be out in the middle of the street. And during rush hour, 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning. And it is awful. You know,
Across from the ball field?
the old ball field.
Yeah.
The old ball
Okay.
field.
I know what you're talking
You're
about.
dating yourself, friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I let the expletives fly.
Mhm.
Who did this? You know, who approved this? This is terrible. So I think anything to improve that and get the truck off the street, and still a couple times a week. It's not an 18-wheeler.
Mhm.
It's an improvement. And we did walk the property a couple maybe a week and a half ago. So thank you to the applicants for that. The fact that they're going to open up Aspet River so we can kind of see it.
Nice.
And the sight lines for drivers coming around the corner. That's awesome.
Well, thank you, Brad. Fred, did you have any comments or anything?
I do, Fran, thank you. First of all, I got the options this afternoon, but didn't get a chance to talk to the DPW director about them. I do see that both are better than what was proposed before. I have a couple concerns. One, option one, I'm wondering why they couldn't just extend the bump out from the building another couple of feet and then maybe put a couple of bollards along the building to protect it from being hit by these errant drivers. And then two, the option two, it looks pretty good. It does satisfy what we talked about in the field, as it gets the truck completely off the sidewalk when it's parked there. And I would expect that you might limit the size of the truck to what's shown in the picture here, nothing bigger than that. But my concern is that where that driveway projects out to Hudson Street, that driveway opening is now 57 feet wide across the sidewalk. And I don't have any real detail as to what the grade would be along the sidewalk as that driveway transitions out to Hudson Street, so the driver can, back the truck up. And I guess I would want to see a little bit more detail there, just to make sure that we're not completely eliminating the appropriateness of the sidewalk.
So Fred, in terms of the grading, there's about a 2-foot change in elevation from the left side where the stairwell and elevator are.
Yeah.
That's going to your right, going up towards the Cold Harbor Brook. There's about a 2 feet in grade change. And
what I'm
160 feet.
What I'm concerned about is the grade of the driveway as it transitions to the gutter in Hudson Street, going over the sidewalk. Right now, we've got a little curb there, and what you're proposing is a roughly 57-foot wide driveway opening that cuts across on a pretty 10-degree angle.
Yeah, Fred, I think that can be pulled back in. The inside line that runs way down Hudson Street, I would think that could be turned and come out, so that can be shortened dramatically, and so that opening can be reduced. So maybe it comes out where the word Hudson Street is labeled. Maybe that can come and just bend a little bit so that it encourages the trucks to get out off the lawn quicker and out into the street. I think.
Yeah,
that
I think something could be done to make it a little bit better there.
Yeah.
Just not sure. I didn't really get a chance to discuss it with the DPW director. I think we also have something in the bylaw that limits the width of the opening on a new driveway to 25 feet or 30 feet, something similar to what Mass DOT has. So I don't know if this requires any kind of a waiver or variance or exception to that. I'd have to talk it over with Kathy, I guess, a little bit.
Or they would have to limit it to the 25 feet.
Well, I don't think it's possible to limit it to 25 feet at a 10-degree angle such as
Oh,
that.
okay.
I don't think so unless Randy thinks.
No,
it's
I don't
possible.
think it, I don't
I
think
don't
you would
think so
either.
either. And I don't want to create a situation where a driver has to back up and go 90 degrees one way and then 90 degrees back the other way, or 80 degrees back the other way to get the truck up to the loading dock. I don't want to make it too much of a challenge to avoid the building either.
Yep.
Well, you
Yeah,
should
I'm
stipulate
thinking-
that you don't let architects design driveways.
So agreed.
Well, I'm thinking as vehicles are coming from the west heading east along Hudson next to the loading dock, as they come down, the area in front of the loading dock today is all paved. So maybe they could come down and we could look at as they come down Hudson Street, they could turn into the site a little bit to get over into this area. And there would be more of a sharper turn coming out, and that would make their back up easier, and that would reduce the width of that opening. But when if you say that, you can only have 25 to 30 feet or whatever the number might be, I mean, I don't know if we can count part of what is there today. That's quite a wide opening as it is today. So if we don't get any worse than that or wider than that, is that something that's doable?
Can I ask a couple more questions, Randy?
Sure.
Maybe Matt could weigh in.
Sure.
Are the majority of your trucks coming from Main Street or River Street for deliveries?
It all depends on the time of year, because the trucks we're talking about here are strictly FedEx and UPS. These are not, larger delivery trucks. So it all depends on their route. A lot of them come down Hudson Street, take the right onto River Street, and then back into the parking lot. And the thing is, if they know the door is there, they're always going to come down Hudson Street. And then, because it's the easiest way, because those guys are under a lot of time, and anything they can do to shave off seconds is what they're going to do. So this is basically training them to come down Hudson Street and to back up.
Well, my biggest question would be, there's no way to put the deliveries on the other side of the building. I see from the floor plan that Tom submitted, that's the second floor. So I don't know if the floor is really open on the other side. I see an access door directly across from this loading dock, but I don't know if that access door is there on the first floor as well. And you can't have him just make his deliveries over there.
No, because once
There's
we
another
separate,
building over there.
yeah.
Okay. I'm just wanted to confirm that for myself. I didn't want to go through this process and find out I didn't ask the question and it could have been as simple as that.
No.
The other thing is, what if they were coming down Hudson Street and they turned in and pulled up parallel to the building and then backed up and then pulled out, maybe like a little horseshoe or something, if you will, little entrance. I don't have the ability to point around onto the plan, but what I'm thinking, if they came down Hudson Street and they pulled onto the property right against the building, backed up to the loading dock, and then when they were leaving, they pulled out facing forward so that nobody was backing out into the street at all.
Right. That is the plan. So there's minimal backing. It's come down Hudson Street, back to the building, and drive straight back down Hudson. And if they need to do their loop, they can take the right onto River and go back to where they need to go.
Right. What I was thinking is they come down Hudson Street and then instead of backing up, they just turn onto the property, drive parallel to the building towards the lobby or first assembly section, and then back up along the building. And so they're backing up on your property as opposed to in Hudson Street.
Mm-hmm.
and then they pull out onto Hudson Street at a driveway opening a little bit further down, which seems pretty doable if they're actually UPS trucks and FedEx trucks that are straight jobs and, you know, fairly short instead of small tractor trailers.
All right, so Fred, if I can just interject for a minute, I'm going to ask Kathy if the little hand is under her control, because you both keep saying down Hudson Street, and I'm not sure if that's from the center of town.
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
When I
Okay.
say down Hudson Street, I mean downhill from Main Street and,
Okay, all right, see, and I
As
would say
do
that
I.
was up, I would say up, that's up Hudson Street
well,
to me.
if the truck's coming down the hill,
Down the
the way
hill.
I was looking at it.
As opposed
Okay,
to-
all right, so Kathy, if you put your little hand, yeah, where it is, and it's going to then head towards the steps, so
Yep,
Fred, yeah, you're talking about going in that way and like curving over then to your left.
Kind of
straight,
right
and
there,
then
right
back,
there,
and then back
pulling in
up.
there, going
then-
along parallel to the building.
Right, and then back.
And then back, yeah, backing
That's too
up to
far.
the loading dock and then pulling out back again onto Hudson Street. It requires some more pavement there. I know there's a fire department connection in that area.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's enough room because what Tom showed is the building, which is great, but it doesn't show the other stuff that's in front of the building that might be obstacles to go around.
Right, there is a utility pole that's next to the building that's about 50 feet down from the loading dock. And that we've always been just trying to avoid so that we don't, that has an overhead wire that crosses Hudson Street. But I think there's room, as you're saying, as you come down the hill heading in an easterly direction on Hudson, if you can pull in right where the existing loading dock is now, pull in off of Hudson Street, right at that loading dock, and then stay parallel to the sidewalk, so to speak, and then back up to this slightly angled space that gets you off the pavement as fast as you can. And then if we can make it so they can turn a little bit when they come out, get back out of the site quicker, so we shorten that driveway length, I think that's the fastest in and out and the safest and the least impact on Hudson Street.
Right,
I
and
think
that
so.
would,
It might just require taking that corner of the bump out and pushing it out just a couple of feet to protect the side of the new building. And still keep the loading dock the width that it is. Just give yourself a little bit of a buffer between the edge of the loading dock door and the face of the building, if you will, along Hudson Street.
Yeah.
Does that seem reasonable to
Yeah.
you and to Tom and to Matt?
It's fine by me. This is Randy.
So we would need to make the loading dock wider,
A little bit.
which would make it more non-conforming.
Right.
So we're now 8.5 feet from the property line where we're supposed to be 15 feet. To maneuver along the building, I think we're going to need to be maybe 7 feet from the property line. So we're going to have to increase the nonconformity at the loading dock by 1.5 feet or 2 feet. I'm fine with that, but I just need to know whether the board is sympathetic to that.
I believe it's within their purview to grant the variance from what you're supposed to have down to 8.5 feet or 7 feet, if that was the desire to make it work properly. Is that possible? Is there a magic number to that 8.5 feet?
8.5 is existing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we're confined, and we are interested in making a safe approach to this. And, it's already going to be non-conforming. If we have to go down to 5 feet to get something safe, we can be very reasonable.
and the sight line is being improved by taking the aluminum siding down between the building and the river, so.
Fred, I'm assuming that you and Scott would want to see this.
Yeah, I know we've started this process many months ago, and much as I would hate to drag it out unnecessarily, I think it might make sense to get Scott on board and then have it come back to the board, but I don't know how the proposing team feels about that.
I mean, certainly we want to get this completed, but if there's questions, we need to address them now. So, or just to make sure everybody else is on board with what we are planning.
Is
Because
this
the
the only item
alternative-
that's outstanding?
Mhm. Yeah.
In my mind, it is.
And I believe for the board as well. Is there a way in which, I mean, is there merit to closing the hearing and making the condition as we stated? And then if it's not agreeable, I mean, I guess that just puts us back to square one. So that is not doable. I know
Well,
that Scott was there at the site visit. I don't know whether we have enough of his insight to know, since this is a change now.
I don't propose to speak for Scott, but my understanding in talking to him at the site and since then, that the goal was to make sure the truck was not on the sidewalk on Hudson Street, not blocking the sidewalk. And
That's what he said in the field, yes.
that was it. And he was the one who suggested parallel to the building. I think we could improve on that suggestion by having it bumping the building out a little bit further, pulling in off Hudson Street, backing up on their own property, and then pulling back out onto Hudson Street in a much shorter time period of blocking and affecting Hudson Street at all. And I think he'd be in favor of that. I just didn't get a chance to talk to him about it today. This afternoon, he was out on a site visit doing some other stuff. And I didn't get a chance to talk to him. So if there's a way to propose a condition that's agreeable to the applicant and the board, I would be willing to talk to Scott tomorrow and confirm it. But if you need to close the hearing to do so, so be it. I wanted to put that out there, because when I looked at that 10-degree angle and I calculated that the driveway opening is 57 feet, I see that being rather onerous.
I mean, if I can just interject here, I mean, I think it would be very difficult between Michelle and I, who are writing these decisions, to describe this as a condition. And I think it would be much easier to refer to a plan, a revised plan. So that's my 2 cents worth, that as the one who, that has to write this decision. I don't want to add another meeting to anyone's schedule, particularly mine, but you could, I don't know how long it would take for the applicant to revise this and send us something that is, no offense, Tom, but done by the engineer.
Offense taken?
So that we can reference, a stamped plan in the decision. And, if people might want to meet towards the beginning of December.
Okay, all right.
I can help you out a little bit, Kathy. I believe that the second Tuesday in December would be available because the groundwater won't be meeting. If the board was inclined to have a brief meeting at 6 o'clock, just to hear these options explored a little bit more detail and see that the DPW is in agreement. I believe that if the other conditions are all the other issues are pretty much dealt with, that you could start drafting the decision and we could continue to whatever that second Tuesday in December is, the 8th.
Looking it up right now.
And then wrap it up in a brief period of time. There doesn't seem to be a lot of abutter input at this point. We've kind of talked about it.
Okay.
That'd be
so
my
Fred,
preference.
all right,
December.
since-
Sorry, Madam Chair. It's Tuesday, December 8th. Just
Thank you.
so we can.
Right. And I do think, given that, Fred, I mean, the fact that Kathy referenced the not having an actual plan that they can reference in a decision, and you not wanting to speak for your supervisor, which probably is a wise idea as well, though he probably is in agreement. If the applicant would be agreeable to a continuance to December 8th, and that the 5 members of the current ZBA are available, that might be the best solution.
No, certainly appreciate you guys, holding a special meeting for this. And if it works, that would be great.
Okay.
We definitely appreciate that.
All right, I see a yes from Brad. I don't see everybody because of the screen sharing. So Mark, okay, Mark, are you available on the 8th?
I'm available on the 8th, yes.
Okay, Dick?
I'm available.
Okay, Paul?
I'm available.
Okay, all right, so then with the applicants being agreeable, do I have a motion to continue to December 8th at 6 p.m.?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to continue 56 Hudson Street to Tuesday, December 8th, 2020, after additional conversations. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
At 6 p.m.
At 6 p.m.
Thank you,
Eastern time.
Brad. And there's a second. Thank you,
Second.
Dick. Oh,
No.
Dick got in the second. Okay, on a roll call, Brad,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and Fran, aye. Okay, so we will continue this to December 8th at 6 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Greatly appreciate the help with this.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for
Fred.
us
We'll
out.
get a drawing of something to you to look at by first thing next week.
That'd be
Great.
great, Randy. I'd appreciate it. And then I'll talk to Scott in the meantime, but I believe this was part of his initial intention. So I
Perfect.
don't think it'll be a problem.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.
Good
guys.
night.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You as well.
Thanks.
Okay, all right. Oh, okay. So, I guess I should have asked if there's anybody in the audience, but we are continuing it, so.
There wasn't anybody in the audience.
I was gonna say, they have another
Except
chance.
for the burrito guy.
Okay, there you go, okay.
Fran, I mean, obviously, the board's, discretion, but if you also just need to take care of tonight, the request from the applicant of 1 Blueberry Lane to withdraw his application without prejudice.
Okay, I saw that in old business, but I didn't see any, I assume that's what it is that he's asking.
Yes,
So he's
so
okay.
the gentleman, if you recall,
Mhm.
his variance was denied.
Right,
And as we discovered on Rice Ave, after the hearing closes, after the board votes, but before the decision is filed with the town clerk's office, an applicant can withdraw without prejudice.
okay,
And so that was something brand new that I learned on the Rice Ave application. But
okay.
this gentleman is asking for the same thing. He sent us an email. I honestly can't remember if I forwarded you the email. It came in, the next day or so after your last
Oh,
meeting.
okay. I don't recall, but I mean, that's fine. So he's gonna try changing it up and doesn't want to wait the 2 years.
I'm assuming so.
Okay.
yeah. But with
Okay.
any withdrawal, the board needs to vote on it.
Okay. All right. Does anybody want to make a motion to accept?
Just
Oh,
one
sure.
clarification. Does it have to be the same 5 people who voted on the motion? Or can it be any 5 members? I mean,
Yeah, good question.
because there were 2 people who, Paul and Brad, pulled themselves off the decision.
I don't think that I did not pursue that. I didn't think of it to pursue that with town council or anything, but
We can err on the side of caution and just do the
Yeah, Leslie.
Yeah, we're all here anyway, so.
right. So, yeah, so that was when we had the 2 alternates come in and Paul and Brad stepped off. I can't remember.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I motion that we allow them to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay, that's a
Second.
motion from Mark and Dick is a second. Okay, so it'll be a roll call vote. Mark,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Leslie,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
and Fran, aye. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, so now on to the 50 Southwest cutoff. All right, so,
Madam Chair, can I make a motion for a 5-minute recess, please?
Oh, sure. Okay. See you in 5.
Thank you. Anyone second?
Second.
Okay.
Isn't it funny that when we're in the, at the town hall, people don't need to do potty breaks, but when you're home, you do. Wonder why that is.
Because we can, I guess.
Yes, I don't know. I have to do something about this squeaky chair. Can you hear that, or is it just me that
Yeah,
hears it?
yeah, now that you pointed it out, I would have noticed it.
Yeah, now that you pointed it out,
Now it's gonna be irritating.
But I-
Yeah, it's driving us up the wall.
but I haven't heard it all night.
I'm gonna try not to move now. I just. So
Just
anyway,
put yourself on mute and it'll be fine.
yeah, I could do that. So, well, congratulations, Mark, on the wedding. I saw pictures. I don't know when your daughter got married, but your wife either keeps posting them on Facebook or I just somehow keep going back to them. But it looked like it was a lovely event.
It was. It was interesting.
Yes, I'm sure.
All of 15 people.
Well, that's all right. There were only 2 people at my wedding, me and Jack. So.
No witnesses?
Oh no, actually, yeah, my sister and one of his friends. Yeah, no, we eloped up to Littleton, Mass. So.
Mark, is that your first child?
It's my middle child, but first to get married. So, and it's also my daughter, so that's the big weight is off.
Yeah, we told Sarah when we started paying for her to have a horse that she would have to forget about ever getting a big wedding. we spent all the money on the horse. So.
Horse versus a groom.
Yes, yeah.
They're easier to maintain.
Anyway, so, and is everybody soloing it for Thanksgiving? So I guess you don't say if you're going to be out of town because this is going to be rebroadcast. I don't want anybody to get robbed while they're out of town.
Well, I'd like to say I'm going to go to New York with 45 other people, but it's going to be me and 3 others in Grafton.
Right. I think the hardest part is I'm only cooking for 3 of us, but I want everything. So scaling it down so that I don't have leftovers for 20 is the hard part.
Yeah, that'll be our challenge too.
Mm-hmm.
That's a challenge. We're going from 15 to 4. So there's going to be a giant vat of turkey soup coming up.
Rats, and I was hoping I could give some away. I guess I won't be able to. All right.
Brad must be caught in traffic.
Randy, you want to
Thanksgiving. I'm hungry.
save your minutes for the 8th? I mean, you won't have anything else on that agenda, obviously. No, there's no.
Okay. All right. If you want, we can save if everybody is prepared then to.
I mean, I'm just
review them.
suggesting that. I don't care.
Right. We'll see how long Brad's 5 minutes would take. Oh.
Just start humming the Jeopardy theme again.
Do, 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 do. There you go. All right. Well, thank you. All right. So, all right. So before us is the 50 Southwest cutoff. And, all right. So if we take it apart piece by piece, and actually up for discussion, I think that there are, On its surface, the application is requesting a special permit to allow the construction of 2 new buildings on 1 lot. Right?
Okay. I don't see that it's an increase in the non-conforming use because you're building a larger building or increasing the square footage of building. It would be an increase in the non-conformance of the building if the building, as he said, was getting closer to the lot line. But the fact that you're going from a smaller contractor building to a larger contractor building, I don't see that as a increase in the non-conformance of the use. I don't buy Amy's. I disagree with Amy's argument there. So I think it's still the same use. I also think that Del Greco had a lot of outside storage. This will be going inside the buildings. And I think we could make a reasonable restriction on outside storage to actually clean up the lot and actually have less of the lot used. And also, again, there will be controlled drainage on this site as opposed to what we've had before with uncontrolled runoff and infiltration on the lot beforehand, where it was a wide open storage of outside stuff.
And I probably should have asked this, and I'm just thinking, the tarp place across the street, isn't that in Business West? And that's been there, that came to be after 2009.
Yeah, he's been there maybe two or 3 years.
Maybe a little bit, all right.
It was about the same time as when you were reviewing King Street, the assisted living.
Okay.
He's actually been there close to 7 years.
It's been a while.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
it's been a while.
there during my first tour of duty through Northborough
Oh, okay.
back in 2014 or so.
Okay, all right, so
So Madam Chair, yeah, no, just to piggyback on that, I mean, that was one of the things we did talk about. I was on the board as well. It was the old Ritchie bus.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And so what we had to decide was it less detrimental?
Okay, because that was a different non-conforming use.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Yep. And now it's obviously you're not running buses at all hours of the night or in the morning. They're putting the stuff over the tops of the trucks, but yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
That was my rookie year, I think, on zoning.
There you go. Mine was the Tim Shea property over on Maple and Brigham.
Was it?
Another good time.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know whether, do you all want to talk about if it was to be approved, what kind of conditions would be put on it, and then see how people feel about approving it that way? Do you want to talk from the position of not approving it? I mean, the design review committee did not recommend approving or not approving it. They recommended and put out, this is how this is the best look it would have if it was approved. But then it's up to us.
Madam Chair, I think one of the things that is somewhat concerning is the fact that we don't know what is actually going in here, right? We have an idea that it's a contractor's yard, but it could be anything. It could be a snow plow, it could be a landscaper. Contractors' yards, by definition, are pretty vague, as we, I think, all know. And so I think it is kind of hard for us to if we want to try to put conditions on special permits or conditions on a special permit approval, exactly what those conditions are going to be. So I don't know. I just, I don't think that this is a very easy case, to be quite honest. I struggle with this one a lot. I do think it is somewhat of an expansion. I mean, expansion of the structure and the use, and I understand that the use is grandfathered. I just don't, I don't know.
Okay, if I might, I guess we're being sold a bill of goods in that we're being told, we're being painted a picture where this is a bunch of electricians and plumbers who come in with their panel trucks, open the garage door, unload and load up their equipment, and head off for the day. I mean, that's kind of what they're saying their other property is like. And I guess my feeling is if we can constrict what they can, the square footage of storage outside, which is where I was going with that, then it's going to say, no, you can't put a landscaper in there, or you can have a landscaper if he just needs to get his tools out of the garage, but no, he can't store, 10,000 square feet of bark mulch on the lot, because that's making a mess of the lot again. I guess that's kind of where I'm angling it, to say, yeah, if it's a bunch of electricians and plumbers, nobody's going to have a problem with it. If it's a bunch of contracting yards where they're actually moving outside stuff with the beeping backhoes every morning, then it's going to be a further detriment to the neighborhood.
We could also.
But I guess, Mark.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If we put time limits on, I understand that Mr. Shea doesn't want to, because it would reduce the number of potential tenants, which again would be at the most 8. All right, well, so then a snowplow truck doesn't go there, because he's going to have to back up his truck at 3 a.m. to do snow plowing. It really is just the tradesman, if there were time constraints on it.
Right.
I guess then the question to that is, are electricians or plumbers, how they operate, is that contractor's yard?
Yeah,
or is that just a commercial? You know, because I guess, because the other thing is, like, Fran, like you said, right? 2009, you guys go in, you look at Business West, and you are trying to come up with the new zoning, right, for the town, right? And you decide that industrial does not belong in this neighborhood, right? And only under specific instances should industrial continue to be used in this part of town. Now, if he came in and wanted to open up a commercial building with a dentist's office, or a place where a plumber can go get his stuff, he can build that building. He can use that use, right? One building or whatever the case is. He doesn't need a special permit, right? I mean, he's one of the reasons why he needs a special permit is because he wants to put 2 buildings on, not just one, right? So I don't know. I think it's just too open-ended. One of the things is, it is very open-ended in what the scope of what we're asking for. It's not like it's someone with a specific business plan says, hey, I'm coming in with this plan. Here are my things. This is what I kind of want to do here. And then we can kind of, try to work with that, I guess.
Right. Well,
this is very open-ended in terms of the trying to put 2 buildings on. Obviously increasing the square footage, because he's going from 3,000 square feet, whatever it is, to 2 buildings totaling 16,000.
But the piece of property could actually handle those 2 buildings if they were office buildings. So the size of the buildings are not the issue. It seems to be what's going to be happening. So if I just Google contractor's yard, because within our contractor's yard definition is construction contractor's yard as one of the options. And it is a site used to store tools, equipment, materials, vehicles, and other materials ancillary to work being performed off-site. So if we could have reasonable conditions where it really is limited within our very broad contractor's yard definition, what the tenants could be like, the building, the landscaping, and the improvements, the betterments to that piece of property are in our best interest. Because what, I mean, not maybe, I mean, I guess that would be the argument for. But the reasonable conditions would, have to be defensible.
Right.
So if it was from 7 in the morning to 6 at night, 6 days a week, it's going to be a plumber, electrician who, doesn't have room in his basement.
Right. Because in theory, by right, he could put in a commercial building, one building on that lot that was 16,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm. But he's saying that they're not selling right now.
Which is a concern on what exactly they're trying to put in. Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's choosing to develop this piece of property to maximize his financial gain, which that's what business does. I mean, that doesn't factor into our decision at all. Right?
Totally agree.
Right. But all right. Well, what do others feel, Dick?
I'd just like to say Tim Shea always does a good job. He's done a number of buildings in town, and they've all come out well. But this is too much of a gamble. We don't know who's going in there, what hours they're going to be there. But he's just looking for a wild card, approval, and I think we need to limit it a lot. A snow plowing contractor, they'd be there 24 hours with loading sand and salt, and Lamborghini, we did away with them going into 329 West Main Street because of chemicals and fertilizers, and has some diesel fuel there, and starting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, starting engines. So I mean, we've found fault with that. It's in the same neighborhood. It's but I don't know how we put enough stipulations in this decision to make it go through.
And that I don't know. I don't know whether you over condition it and he appeals it, or you deny it and he appeals it.
Or we could put conditions in, and with the stipulation that, if things change or you have a different applicant, you come back to the board and we'll go over it and make a decision then about that particular applicant.
I mean, the particular tenant? Is that something that we can put in a decision, Kathy? Have the conditions to limited to X very specific subcategories within the contractor's yard?
Well, I think, looking at the special permit criteria on page 13 of the zoning bylaw, those are the 7 criteria that, that you would be going through. And there's a couple criteria that I think allows you to put conditions on what is appropriate for the site. And it's up to you to determine what's appropriate for the site. So I think you have the room, you have the ability to do that based on these criteria. The proposed site is an appropriate location for such use. Well, you're gonna, you want to, it sounds like, what you want to do is talk about what kind of uses are okay. Plumber, yes.
Landscaper, no. Right.
The snow plow business, no. And then, another condition, another criteria, the use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. Well, again, you're talking about, some of the things you've talked about tonight are, noise and its effect on the neighborhood. And so again, an electrician or a house painter or, I don't know, somebody, there's a gentleman here in town who rented space from a contractor, and he was like an eBay dealer, eBay, is that what it's called? Dealer.
Yeah.
So it's where he stored his things.
Come on, Kathy.
That he bought and sold. What?
Oh, it's like, is it eBay? What is that thing?
I know.
He's selling CD-ROMs.
I said it was a while ago. So now what is it? It's like
my mother-in-law always says I'm not up with the times. Sounds like you're not up at the Times either. No. Love you,
But
Kathy.
I will
Love you.
admit that.
Well,
So,
Cold Harbor Brewery is in one.
that's okay. He stored his, I don't know, his trinkets, whatever he was selling. That's okay for the neighborhood, as opposed to, like you said, we keep going back to a snowplow.
Or the ambulance. I think you said something about a private ambulance business. That would be a disaster. But Cold Harbor Brewery is in one in Westboro, underneath
That's
where
true.
Robinson Music used to be.
Yep, that's true.
So,
Yep.
so again, I mean, I guess the choices that we have are to gamble on denying it, but we have to have that base in fact. What are the factual regulatory points that can be referenced? Or do we approve it with conditions that he may feel are too restrictive, and then it's on him to appeal it to a higher authority?
I guess my feeling is if we approve it with the restrictions, then his first strategy when he gets somebody in there is that he's going to come to us and say, hi, can you ease off this restriction for this tenant? So at least we'll have that approval of, okay, what is, point in fact, who is really going here, which I feel more comfortable with. Giving them both an hour and an outside storage restriction, I think limits is going to be a cramp on what he can put in there, and is going to drive him to us eventually.
I wasn't
But
even in favor of any outside storage, actually. I thought 8,000 square feet was pretty generous.
That was my throw out, but I would go down, I'd start saying 6.
And only in the back side of the building, not visible from the street or from,
Well, I guess my feeling is he's going to do this wonderful job of controlling rainfall and runoff on the property. It'd be a real shame if he then dumped a whole bunch of stuff outside.
True. Okay. All right. Leslie or Jeff, do you have any thoughts?
Where are we going here?
Do you? We hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Nope. Now we can't.
You just cut off.
How's
There you
that?
Got it.
All right.
Gotcha.
I agree with Mark. And I, as a part-time snowplow driver, first of all, I haven't plowed since January, so that's one thing. But the other is you can't control the hours. And I think most people are going to get their sand and salt somewhere else. So that's tough to restrict. And any of these plumbers, carpenters, et cetera, they may very well be plowing in the wintertime as well because they can't do their other jobs. So restricting those types of uses or those types of businesses, I think would be tough. And even with hours coming and going, but having that outside storage, I think would be really the key to limit those quote unquote offensive uses. But I would be in favor of approving it with various restrictions.
Leslie, do you have an opinion or any thoughts?
I'm kind of on the fence, so I really don't at this point.
Okay, jump in when you do. Dick?
I think maybe we should lean towards approving it with restrictions, hours, outside storage, and let's see where it goes and put in a stipulation. If he wants to change it, he can come back to us.
Bob, is there a problem with outside storage square footage? Is that something you're comfortable with, or does it get out of hand and you just keep beating them over the head?
I think that's a big variable. You could have somebody who's just using, the area out there to store maybe one pallet worth of goods, either on a temporary or semi-permanent basis. And then you may have somebody who's coming in there and he's parking a whole bunch of trailers overnight. It's a variable that I think is difficult to pigeonhole in terms of a restriction. I don't know if the if the property owner is going to be willing to say everybody gets 300 square feet and that's all they get to have, or something like that. Or it's a case by case basis where, one tenant doesn't need space, another tenant needs a little more space. It's a big variable, to be honest.
I guess if they need more space, they can rent the second bay. Right? He said it's a maximum of 8 tenants, but if somebody wants 2 bays or 3 bays, they
Right.
can have them, right? Yeah.
Well, the other thing is that, the design review committee spent a pretty significant amount of time in terms of making the building and the grounds non-offensive or palatable or attractive, whatever term you want to call it.
Mhm.
I think that if you were to drive by and start seeing stuff stored out back or in the front, I should say, where it's visible from the street, I think there would be some complaints coming in.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I didn't hear anybody bring it up much tonight, but if you've got outside storage, he's got to be careful where it goes, because you still need fire department access and to get that tower around. So, if by the time you have, employee parking and outside storage, when all is said and done, you still have to get that big beast of a fire truck in and out.
Well, then maybe the first blush is no outside storage. Then it's just a nicer looking building than what's there now that happens to have bay doors at the back side that you don't see from the street.
Well, I could see an incidental drop of a pallet or something outside, but then I would expect it cleared up. So giving them 2,000 square feet of outside storage
Okay.
and then having them come back. Just my feeling.
All right. So just straw poll. I mean, how do people feel about that limited outside storage? Sounds like a reasonable condition.
I guess for me, I would be more in favor of a more restrictive outside storage, meaning 0.
Yeah, that's
and I say that because, I just think that that's how I view that property, I guess.
I do too. Yeah. Okay. All
Do
right.
we want restrict the hours as well? 7 to 8 or something like that?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I guess I would do, yeah, 7 is when we say you can start construction, not that they're constructing there, but we tolerate construction type noise in town at 7 a.m. in the morning. So sure, I think that that's reasonable. Almost the same conditions that you can't have commercial construction on Sundays or holidays. It can't start before 7 a.m. in the morning. I think dusk pretty well. I don't know whether you want to do it on the other end. I guess you would have to 7 a.m. to 10 at night. I don't know, 9 at night.
I would go with 8. Pretty much
Okay.
anybody who's going to run a job. I mean, as I say, he can come back to us if he needs something special.
Right. Or he could. Yeah. All right. So 7 a.m.
Well,
to.
I guess one of the things he could do. So if we're looking to put a bunch of sort of restrictions on approving a special permit, right? His 2 options, right, could be, I don't agree with this one and come back to us, or he can say these are ridiculous restrictions and completely beyond the scope of anything and appeal to the court.
Correct.
Yes, he
right?
could.
Right.
So those are his 2 options if we go down that route. Just
Right. So so the balance is trying to make it as restrictive as possible without the threat of an appeal that might undo what we did.
right. And then I guess I'll just say, we also have special permit with site plan review because we are the site plan review board. And having gone to some of these classes, there is a case, Prudential Insurance versus the Board of Appeals of Westwood, where the court does lay out sort of the defined powers of site plan review. And one of the areas in which we do have the power to reject the site plan is that the site plan is so intrusive on the needs of the public. And if we are to put in a bunch of restrictions, I imagine that there will be some people trying to alert Bob or staff to all of these things. And it could be, somewhat of an issue, right? You can't have outside storage and people are taking pictures of a pallet just sitting there. You can make a case that is, intrusive on the needs of the public.
But that,
Ms.
it's almost like you have
the
to wait
concern of-
till it's, I'm sorry, go ahead, Leslie.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Fran.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, you're already making the argument after it's already been approved. I mean, it's almost like the leap of faith. You grant it, and then if he violates it, then there's the enforcement issue, which we already know is a concern. But it can't prevent us from always not doing our duty just the same.
Yep.
I mean, but it's sure that's a possibility.
And the enforcement is, it seems to be very much on social media right now, but it's we don't get that. We don't get a lot of complaints about enforcement, whether it's through the building inspector or there's just some very vocal people right now, and maybe rightly so, that they're upset about things in their particular neighborhood. But I wouldn't paint this use or this property, this applicant into a corner, because there's so many properties in this town that are operating and contributing taxes and doing wonderful things for the community. I mean, are there people out there that defy regulations? Absolutely, but it's not the norm. It is absolutely not the norm, and I think a lot of people are being led to believe that it's the norm and how Northborough operates, and that is not true.
And through the chair, also,
Okay, Jeff.
just along that line, I have 3 different clients that are within 100 yards, not even 100 yards, 100 feet of this location. They haven't said one word. They haven't been to any of these meetings. They're not opposing it. They're more abutters than some of the other neighbors and other people who've spoken against this. And there hasn't been one comment. And they all know I'm on the ZBA, but I haven't heard a word. So I see this as a significant improvement to a piece of property, and we can put in reasonable restrictions that will make it much better than it ever has been. And I think it will be a positive for the community and the neighborhood.
Leslie, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Did you want to say
Well,
something?
Yeah, I was curious, is the concern about the outside storage the aesthetics of it or the noise that would be involved in order to move whatever it is that's stored there?
Just the aesthetics for me.
I also think it would constrict the types of people he ends up getting in there. In other words, it wouldn't be the landscaper wouldn't want it because he can't store his bark mulch bins there.
But what's wrong with having a landscaper there? I mean, I guess that's what I'm asking. And if Del Greco was there and was moving pallets of stone and things like that, it hasn't been a problem. Why? I mean, I kind of think a place that has mulch and is kind of a natural look, I don't consider that to be an eyesore, I guess, especially if you're talking on Route 20.
Well, unless it gets as big as Zeco over on, that's huge over there.
It's true. Yeah, it's just
so they're not. I mean,
we don't get complaints about Zeco. Just as an example.
Right.
We don't get complaints about that because they're law abiding.
Right.
Business with a wonderful reputation, and
Okay.
And they do what they're supposed to do.
All right, so, I mean, so I think though we're somewhere in here, we have to find a middle ground of hours of operation and out, I mean, it is about aesthetics for me. I would not vote against it if the majority of you said 2,000 square feet is of outside storage is fine. It's not my preference, but that's a negotiable point for me. The hours of operation, I think, are really what would be the key. The 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., 6 days a week. I would drop Sundays
Give
because
them 8
everybody.
PM.
Oh, did I say 8 a.m.? Yeah.
Yeah.
6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and no 6 days, no Sundays.
Well, I thought you were saying 7. So you're
7.
saying 6 a.m. now?
No, I'm
No,
sorry.
7.
Right,
7
7
to
to 8, 7 to 8, 6 days a week. It's all those same three numbers, just jumble them up and change them around. Yeah, you're getting too old and too tired for this. I mean, that to me, you know, if you guys thought slightly different on either end, you wanted 7 days a week, again, maybe I wouldn't be so happy, but I think that those are reasonable.
I think 6 days is, yeah, very reasonable.
Right.
Yeah,
And if he doesn't like it, he can appeal it.
I think we need a stipulation too, that the outside storage can't be visible from southwest cutoff.
Yep. I agree.
Okay.
Does anybody have any concerns about having like one large tenant? Or are we restricting it to a point where nobody's going to want all 4 bays on any one of these buildings?
I don't see a problem if they do.
All right, just makes me a little nervous. Okay.
Depending on the
All right.
nature of the businesses, one business could be less disruptive than, 4
Sure.
individuals. We really
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
just don't know.
Okay. All right. What's the next move?
I don't have the sheet in front of me to make a proposal.
Do we have a list of all the conditions that we're proposing?
Well, I wrote down 2 so far.
We have, all right, what are the 2 you have written down?
Hours of operation, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. And outside storage cannot be visible from the southwest cutoff.
And limited to no more than,
Go for
2,000 square
2,000.
feet.
I'm sorry, Dick?
2,000 square feet.
2,000 square feet in total.
Right.
And
About
let him
outside
figure out.
storage.
Yeah, let him figure out which one of his tenants can have the outside storage. I mean, we don't have to, do we have to say that there has to be the ability for the fire trucks to go through, or that's a given?
No, that's a given. And well, I mean, Bob, I don't want to speak for you. Bob works with the fire department, but I mean, the fire department wouldn't, they'll shut them down.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
if they go there and they find, something obstructing, for public safety, but.
If fire
Right.
department access is a given above all else.
Okay. All right. And so we do
There was
have,
also a letter, I forgot to mention it. I mean, you got it, a couple meetings ago, but there was a review letter from the fire chief too, that he didn't have any issue with this proposed use. And
Okay,
the
we
way
do-
it was laid out. So the
do
third,
need-
condition, no more than 2,000 square feet of outside storage in total.
right. The conditions of the design review have to be met. Everything that Fred had on his list, there was something that Fred added that he said was, I don't remember, was it on this? Definitely make sure you do the as-built plan. So you can list everything on this letter on the decision, since that's what the planning board likes to do.
Yeah.
Or not.
And that for the design review, the way that we write the design review memos is obviously, with the design review committee reaches a point with the applicant that, this particular plan dated this particular date is what they are approving and, recommending to go forth. So that's how I wrote that memo. So we'll reference those particular plans.
Okay, any concerns about the signage that was proposed? I mean, he's not asking for anything bigger or greater than what's allowed. And I mean, of course, there's always that chance that he showed us an example of something that's on a smaller piece of property and it's going to be bigger on this one, but that it meets this, as long as, I guess it's just what is allowed, right?
Yeah, he's got the side of the building that he could put a 20-foot wide and high sign onto, but I just don't see him. He's restricted on doing that by our own zoning.
Okay. And Fred does want to see the curb cut approval by Mass DOT. That was the thing that Fred wanted.
Is that in your review letter, Fred, or that's a separate? Okay. So based on those conditions, do you want to go through the special permit criteria, or are you generally saying that the special permit criteria are being met with these conditions added to the decision?
I mean, do you feel that, is it a stronger decision to reference each point with some type of findings of fact?
Well, I mean, I'll develop the finding of facts through the file. I mean, it's statements of truth, from, as we do for every decision, what it's zoned, what the square footage is.
All right, well, okay, so if I look at the conditions, there's definitely no private disposal of refuge or solid waste. Such conditions may include, but shall not be limited to, private disposal. Well, they do have dumpsters on the property, though.
Fran, what are you reading?
On the conditions on page 13. D, I was looking at.
No. You're you're looking at the criteria above.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, D is, are things that to give you a framework that.
Okay, such as, okay.
But I mean, typically what I put in the findings of fact is that, if you're approving something, then, it's met the special permit criteria.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of those is a finding.
Okay.
And I'm just saying, in general, whether you want to go through each one of those tonight, I mean, you typically don't, but whatever you want to do. Or in general, are you saying that, the criteria is being met with these conditions?
Well, I think it's my opinion that the special permit site plan approval with the conditions that we just laid out makes this project approvable. Is it in substantial harmony with the master plan? That's no, because it's a non-conforming use that we're continuing, that we know is not something that we want to continue doing, but it's the state law. So you can't ever, anytime there's something in front of us, it's never going to be in harmony because they're always coming to us with something different. So, but, I don't know. If we've never done it before, I don't know why we would do it now, but I don't want to make that decision for others.
All right, so I think it's fair. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but you're coming up with conditions, and usually conditions mean that you're approving something. So,
yes.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So your conditions are making this, are allowing the special permit to be granted.
I guess my feeling is to move in that direction as a proposal, and board members are welcome to voice their vote on it.
Okay. All right, so at this point, I mean, does anyone have anything they want to add, subtract, comment on, or move forward on a motion?
I guess I just did have one point of clarification that was brought up, and I just have it in my notes. Was the 7-040-050 lots divided by district boundaries? Just to cover the basis here. So the bylaw states where a lot is situated in more than one district, the use regulations that apply in either district shall apply in both districts for a distance of 50 feet on either side of the district boundary, provided that the lot exists at the time of the district boundary was drawn, and dimensional regulations of the district in which more than 50% of the lot is located shall apply. Do we need clarification on that this plan meets that?
Well, you've closed the public hearing.
I guess I'm comfortable. I mean, this was all the Del Greco property, right? They didn't. I just don't see that Del Greco owned 3 pieces of property here. I look at this that they owned a piece of property and have divided it themselves, but this was the commercial. This was their commercial end of the property.
It isn't the placement of the driveway where it is for safety reasons. So if we were to say they couldn't put the driveway down at that end, they by right could put it somewhere further up the hill, and the sight lines and everything else would be more dangerous. So it's in the interest of the public to have that driveway down in the south end.
You know, and without, well, I mean, I know someone made that statement, Paul, and they talked about, you know, the various dates and so forth, but I mean, we haven't verified that. You know, I don't even know, I didn't take down those dates, but we haven't verified that to know, you know, whether that's accurate or not. And the board didn't ask for it to be, you know, verified by staff, so.
And I guess
Okay.
yeah.
I was just trying to, I had it written down, sorry, but as a point.
Well, I think it was Amy who brought it up,
Right.
and you know, the point was made, but I also see there is an advantage that they're getting rid of, well, they're closing off both of their current entrances, but, and as Jeff points out, it's a safer entrance, and it's only a single entrance as opposed to some really ugly 2 entrances currently. You know, I think it's an improvement.
Right.
So we're currently at hours of operation, the outdoor storage, and then what were the other conditions?
No more than, outdoor storage can't be visible from the street. No more than 2,000 square feet of outside storage in total for the entire site. The conditions in Fred's review letter. And then the condition with a reference, you know, to the specific, all the plans will be mentioned, but specifically the elevation plans and the, you know, ultimately the revised site plan that the design review committee approved.
Can we also say that the lighting, the timing of the lighting, unless it's for security purposes, should be limited to like an hour before and an hour after hours of operation, so that it's not on all night?
I would oppose, if I could, I'd oppose that. It's gonna be safety for those 4 lights.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm talking about the ones that he said are gonna be on the building. The building
wall
lights that are gonna
packs.
be on it, the wall packs that are gonna be, just again, just so that people feel that it's
Well, the
not gonna be any.
photometric plan, you know, again, that's something that everybody gets, but I mean, certainly I know it's just probably Bob and I and Fred that look at it, and the design review committee. But I mean, there's no light that first of all, the bylaw doesn't allow it, that light is able to shed onto an abutting property. And, their photometric plan, shows that.
Okay, all right, so the wall packs are not an issue for anyone to be on a timer, that we don't need to restrict when the timer should go on and off? Okay,
Should the storage be cubic feet instead of just square feet, depending on height, if we're talking about tall?
Yeah.
They're going up 60 feet.
It still can't be visible from the street.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. So no
It's my math
silos.
brain going at it.
Yeah, so no grain silos. So that's interesting. All right. Okay, it's 9 o'clock.
Paul, were you going to put together a proposal?
Just taking notes.
Okay. Then I guess I put together a proposal to approve I don't have the listing in front of me, the site plan as a special permit, special permit with the site plan,
Approval.
et cetera.
For 50 Southwest Cutoff
Chris Scarborough.
with the following.
With the restrictions that we've indicated of hours of operation, outside storage, and design review committee and town engineers restrictions.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. By roll call, Mark,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Brad,
Nay.
and Fran, aye. Okay. All right, so Kathy recommended possible, so that for our December 8th meeting, that we'll do the minutes. There are 4 different meeting minutes, so be
Okay.
prepared to have already read them and
You can
comment
certainly
on
do it
them.
now if you're ready.
I don't know if anybody, I would prefer putting it off because I do want to just ask real quickly 2 things related to the emails that we got from people. I took a position of telling people that it should always go through town planners and not to us individually. I'm not sure, Dick, you might not have even gotten any because yours seemed to bounce back, and I don't believe Leslie or Jeff were included in the mass mailings that somehow residents were given our email addresses directly. So
I
unless
received them.
you did,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
All right, so unless someone feels differently, I did on behalf of all of us, go back to the person who wrote and ask them to please submit through the town planners to preserve the record to ensure that it is complete and it's then protected by the town server, because each of us have our own individual emails, and I just don't think it's appropriate for individual residents to email us individually. So I hope that everybody's okay with the fact that I did that. And if
I
not,
would strongly agree with you. There's also a problem that, I don't know what I didn't receive.
Right. So, yeah, so I like to get them from Kathy, so I know that I'm getting all of them.
Yep.
The other,
Absolutely.
okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right,
Yep.
the other thing is, don't anybody feel bad for me over the one that Miss Maselli wrote directly at me, and I think is more on the personal attack side than I think it was appropriate. But I'm a big girl with big girl panties, so I don't want anybody to worry about me. I do want to know what I would like to actually contact Carrie Martinek, the chair of the planning board, because they put a lot of their own time and staff time into developing a technical plan, a technical advice letter, which our bylaw says that they provide technical support for our decisions. I just feel that this didn't really hit the mark, and I would like it to be productive. And so I just wanted to know if anyone had anything that they wanted me to share or convey to her that we thought might be helpful if they are going to put time, energy, their own and staffs into doing a technical review, and the applicant who had to go before them, what it is that they are telling us, because I don't know.
Yeah, Fran, I mean, honestly, it feels like they're telling us how to do our job. I mean, they write the bylaws, and that's their job. Our job is to enforce them with variances and special permits. But sometimes they step over their boundaries, I think.
Well, I appreciate your candor, because I do feel that way, and I don't think it's with malintent, but again,
Correct.
you know,
Yeah.
we are a separate authority with our own, you know, authority. So, all right. Is there anything that people, do you want me to encourage her to write things on a monthly basis, or I mean, because they are asking for applicants to come before them in most cases before we see them. I mean,
That I don't know.
okay. All right.
Anyone else on the board? I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I'll just have a conversation with Carrie and see what she thinks.
I mean, having come from the planning board side, maybe I'm a little biased in this regard, but I think there's no reason to be threatened by comments, and you don't have to take them. But I guess I see any input as being potentially valuable, and you can take it or leave it. You're right. We're not bound to take it, but I see no reason to discourage people from providing input either. That's my.
I just didn't think this three-page letter had any input. It just cited regulations. But
Yeah, no, I would agree.
That was the confusing thing.
Yeah.
I
Right, no,
was
I'd agree with that.
expecting some point to be referenced after quoting a section of the bylaw, and it just says, here's a quote from the bylaw. And it's like, what am I to do with this?
Okay. All right. Then I'll ask her, because like I said, I know they put a lot of time and energy into it. And again, staff's time as well. But okay.
I would have expected that they would have made a recommendation about these things if they want to comment on them.
Right.
They wouldn't take a vote and, you know, put their money where their mouth is, you know, I mean.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I'll reach out to her and see if we can get a more productive dialogue, because to Leslie's point, you know, if we can get input is always better than feedback, because it's an action, it's proactive instead of reactive.
I always like to see their feedback or their input, but
Yeah.
you know, they got to understand that they're not making the decision, we are.
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
They
Okay.
seem to take personal offense when we oppose them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Right.
I agree, Dick. I agree.
All right, thank you very much. All right, and now I just lost my agenda, but I think that, was there anything else, Kathy, that you needed from us that can't?
No, I'll go over I just wanted to bring you up to date on some of the potential zoning amendments that the planning board has been discussing. But I can bring you up, up to date on the 8th.
Okay, and then at some point, not the 8th, because we already said this is going to be a short meeting, but can you give us an update, a status on some of the things that are still outstanding, like the King Street adult assisted living, and the one that we got that appealed, that that we all got served papers for? Drawing a blank on which one that is. It's on my
1 Lyman Street.
Yes, yes. Just what the status is. I mean, but again, it doesn't have to be for the 8th. It can be for the January meeting. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Ooh. All right. Dick made the motion and Paul seconded it. A roll call vote. Dick?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
And Fran, aye. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a safe and COVID-free Thanksgiving. We'll see you on the 12th.
Night, everyone.
Thanks, you too.
Night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Ciao.